from Australia, who is the consultant for the InfoDev, have joined us. And he is not a new face to the Indian incubation ecosystem. He has been closely working with DST and NSTDB in implementing the InfoDev's incubation program in India. Welcome you, Julian. And on behalf of the organizers, I take pleasure in welcoming Dr. Anita Gupta, the advisor and head of NSTDB, and the department which has pioneered in implementing the incubation system in the country since 1983, and is a role model for many of our government agencies to follow their practices. Welcome, ma'am. On behalf of I take immense pleasure in welcoming Mr. P.M. Parelva, Director MSME DI Nagpur, who is going to deliver the keynote address immediately. I also take this to mention the presence of Dr. Rajendra Jagdale, the Director General of Science and Technology Park, Pune, and the immediate past president of ISBA, and has been instrumental in shaping this incubation association since its inception. And I have also able to note the presence of the policymakers, Mr. Sijo Wagi from Maharashtra, and the policymakers from Punjab also. Apart from this, we have our incubation center friends, incubation members, community members who have joined us for this session. This session has been planned by GIZ to share the experiences of the policymakers in implementing the incubation and entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem by various government agencies. Focus to Punjab and Maharashtra to learn about key outcomes and impact created by the policies and schemes that has been launched earlier by the government agencies, and also to deliberate on the gaps, on the strategies and how to address these gaps or improve the effectiveness of the schemes of the policies. Today we have 4 panels from the keynote address by Mr. Parelva. We have the incubation managers from Punjab and Maharashtra sharing their experiences, and a panel by the other incubation CEOs from other states of our country. About 5 incubation managers are sharing their experiences in implementing the ecosystem initiatives. And then we have Dr. Anita Gupta, Mr. Manish Diwan from BIRAC, and the representative from MSME, right? And also we have Mr. J.K. Arora, Executive Director from Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, and Mr. Sijo Varghese from Maharashtra State Innovation Society, the panel to share the government's opinion on the ecosystem. And in the incubation or international perspective, we have Mr. Julian Webb, Managing Director of Krida Projects Australia and the consultant for the World Bank. And also we have Ms. Russell Pili, Chief of Technology Business Incubation from Department of Science and Technology, Government of Philippines. So it's a panel, or this program has a panel representing the practitioners, policymakers, and also the implementing agencies. And we have also invited the policymakers from the supporting departments from these 2 states. So on behalf of GIZ and ISBA and program partners, I extend a warm welcome to you all. Now I invite Mr. P.M. Parelva, Director MSME DI, Nagpur, to deliver the keynote address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Suresh. Thanks for inviting me in today's program on incubation in Maharashtra and Punjab. This program, incubation centers, capacity building of incubation centers in Maharashtra and Punjab, is being jointly done since last 2 years by Ministry of MSME with GIZ, and GIZ is our partner organization in strengthening incubation centers in these two states on pilot basis. I am closely associated with GIZ, looking after the work here in Maharashtra. And while organizing number of programs, I have seen GIZ has a very good experience and technical manpower for capacity building of incubation centers. As we all know, MSME plays significant role in economy development of our country, and it is a backbone of our economy. Ministry of MSME is apex organization in our country, in India, uh, making schemes and policies for development of this MSME sector. And this ministry is headed by our Honorable Union Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari. He is a very dynamic leader and focused and result-oriented person. Fortunately, I am attached to him and getting opportunities to work with him. I see he is a person who is habitual not to hear to hear no to whatever instruction he gives, and he accepts persons those who work without any without any excuses, and that is why he is known as a leader working on fast track. Our ministry has a number of schemes. One of them is incubation center. We are establishing incubation centers in various engineering management colleges across India. In Maharashtra, almost more than 40 incubation centers are approved. And the objective of this incubation center is to commercialize innovative ideas, commercialize ideas of startups. And we are giving one-time granting aid up to 1 crore for capital investment and 15 lakh per idea to these incubation centers. These incubation centers have already submitted their ideas, and most of their ideas are approved also. And in days to come, we will be able to see number of ideas, new ideas are commercialized, and innovative ideas will be with the innovative ideas, new MSMEs will come up. This ecosystem our ministry is developing across country, and once this ecosystem is established successfully, we would be able to see that a new way will be paved for innovators, startups to commercialize their ideas. This was not available earlier for our innovators and startups in India. So, with this, I once again I congratulate GIZ and ISBA for organizing this excellent program, and hope we will be able to see good results after this program. And again, GIZ and Ministry of MSME will be able to do the capacity building of these incubation centers. Thank you very much. And with this, I extend my once again I extend my thanks to GIZ and ISBA for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your opening remarks. And it's nice to know that Maharashtra has more than 40 incubation centers, and the active involvement of MSMEDI in establishing incubation centers in the MSME clusters too. And we are also aware that the MSME DI is involved in promoting incubation centers in its clusters at various parts of the country. And we have taken this initiative about 3-4 years before in association with GIZ. And we were also part of that. ISWA is also part of that initiative about 4-5 years before. And we have started seeing the results out of the efforts that has been put nearly years. We look forward to your continued support and guidance, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. So, now it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Gaurav Sharma, the technical advisor of GIZ, to make a presentation on scenario of incubation in Punjab and Maharashtra. and also the initiatives under MSME. Over to you, Mr. Gaurav Sharma.
And a very warm good morning to all of you. I hope my screen is visible. Chavi, can you just confirm?
Yes,
Is it
yes,
visible?
yes, Gaurav.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
So first of all, yeah, thank you. So first of all, I would like to welcome our dignitaries from ISBA, from MSMEDI, Maharashtra, our ecosystem partners from the state of Punjab, and the innovation ecosystem stakeholders from the state of Maharashtra. Since we are in the conclusion phase of the project, and most of the ecosystem partners must have been aware about this project, which is called Program for Modernization and Innovation Promotion in MSMEs. Uh, to start with, I would say we are working at an ecosystem level wherein our key role is to, activate or uh, vitalize the ecosystem partners. So the genesis to me appears quite logical as far as this project is concerned, that we are working with the uh, ecosystem partners who belong to no doubt MSMEs, who they belong to the startup and the entrepreneurship ecosystem, and not to forget they also they also include academia as an important pillar. The fourth sector where we have worked, or the fourth pillar which we intend to strengthen through this project, is the policy recommendation part. So, basis our work done in these three verticals with MSMEs, with industry, with academia, and with incubators, we have done in the last 1 year, I would say, series of stakeholder consultations to come up with the recommendations, or to come up with various challenges which these ecosystem partners are facing. So today's this session also leads to, or the objective is also quite similar, to have together or to garner best practices from our ecosystem partners, how they're doing it, or what are the areas which they would like to highlight as enablers, and what are the challenges. But I would leave that particular topic to the experts which we have, which are here today with us from Punjab and Maharashtra, and I would like to just uh, sensitize you on what and how we have done so far, and uh, as far as these three or four verticals are concerned. So first is our bridging the gap between industry and academia. We think academia play quite a vital role as far as MSME problems are concerned, and uh, this collaboration makes both industry and academia more responsive towards the needs of each other, because MSME, certainly they are a huge sector. There's a lot of variation in this sector. So uh, and the challenges also vary from the scale or the nature. uh, at the same time, academia can play, or is playing, a vital role in terms of solving their day-to-day problems, providing them regional R&D support. So we have tried to revitalize, or we have tried to support this ecosystem uh, by fostering collaborations between industry and academia through our BMO partners. So, though in Punjab we started quite late, but we have a couple of colleges who we worked with. But in Maharashtra, I'm sure that the ecosystem players must have been very much aware about the work which has been done in this particular sector. And we have a lot of success stories if this particular sector is, or the pillar is concerned. Second one is strengthening BMOs, because we think BMOs play a critical role as far as capacity building or upliftment or innovation promotion and modernization in MSMEs is concerned, because they are the face of these MSMEs. So through our project interventions, we have connected BMO partners to the right set of speakers, to the right set of experts, whether they belong to modernization, whether they belong to finance, whether they belong to entrepreneurship promotion. So this is how, through this project, we supported BMOs, and these numbers definitely are quite old now, since we are in now closing out this project, and the numbers are far better. Mm, Now, coming down to the context of today, what GIZ has done through its expertise in incubation or entrepreneurship field, we have helped various incubators which are there in technology centers. Some are MSME established, and some are academic incubators. So we have helped them operationalize. First of all, we have helped them through capacity buildings of their incubation managers, and as we speak today, we are parallelly running a uh, incubating incubators program in Punjab, Pan India, and we are training again the incubation managers. uh, we have developed various knowledge tools like templates and presentations which can be used by incubation managers when they interact with the ecosystem stakeholders of entrepreneurship. Apart from it, we have also helped these incubators connect to the most relevant set of other stakeholders, to capitalize on the synergies they hold. So this is the overall scenario, and since we are already more than 5 years into this project, there are certain success stories which we would like to hear from um, our partners, our ecosystem players, or actors. So without taking much time, I would like to hand it over to the moderator, just another 1 minute where I can just sprinkle upon the policy verticals, why we are doing it, how we are doing it. So we have been in touch. We have been working closely with the state-run organization both in Punjab and Maharashtra to conduct various studies, policy level stakeholder consultations around these 3 or 4 pillars. So we have come at quite a decent level, and we have done a considerable amount of stakeholder consultation so that we can say that this is the word which have, or these are the recommendations which have emerged from the ground. So going forward, I look forward to an impactful session today, and I also look forward to listening more from our ecosystem players today. So with this, I hand it over back to the moderator. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for giving the overview about the initiatives of JSL. And happy to know that you have been closely working with MSME clusters and academia, and as well as the incubation centers. And good to know that GSI also has come out with knowledge tools and uh, other tools which can be shared with the incubation community. Thank you very much. Now we are moving to the best practices session by the incubators of Punjab and Maharashtra. We have invited 2 incubation centers from Punjab and 2 incubation centers from Maharashtra. And now I'm happy to invite the Mr. Sumir Walia, the Director Seed of Chitkara University, the CEO of the Incubation Center at Chitkara. Over to you, Sumir, and you can briefly introduce yourself, and you can share the experiences of your incubation center at Chitkara.
Thank you very much, Sureshji, and being very thoughtful to invite us and share our experiences, especially on the best practices Chitkara has been able to adopt through its learnings. I'll just quickly start with a video. My regards to everybody who have joined the panel, the team from GIZ, the government departments, our state of Punjab, Dr. Jatinder Kaur. So I'll just start with sharing my screen, please. This is our video. I'll just share another one. So stop share. I'll now come on to my presentation and just quickly share the best practices we have been adopting. As to the topic, sharing best practices on incubation, Chitkara University's innovation incubator was founded in the year 2013, but we came into the active play in 2015, and the incubation center we started was within 15,000 square feet of area. We have 3 incubation centers, Mohali in Punjab, Baddi, Himachal Pradesh, and in Panchkula in the state of Haryana. As of today, we have 116 diverse startups who have been incubated with us, and most of them very actively still a part of the ecosystem. Challenges faced. So access to talent, some of my esteemed colleagues and the distinguished panel here would agree. The access to talent for startups, sourcing a good team for them has been a challenge. Access to capital for early stage startups has been a challenge, and availability of advanced fabrication and testing labs where a young idea who wants to prototype something which is potentially commercial. For example, one of our startups is manufacturing an electronic stretcher. So it was a challenge for that gentleman to, find out a good fabricator. But through his sources, he could manage somebody and has been able to bring a decent amount of prototype, which is now being tested in various hospitals. It is a solar-backed e-stretcher which he's developing. Regional mindset towards entrepreneurship versus jobs. Some of the state level initiatives towards entrepreneurship development, but we are very happy now that a lot of things are being supported by the government. Things are much picking up. Cluster specific business incubation. What I mean to say here is that we don't have much of clusters that okay, something is happening in the health sector only, and something is happening in battery technology exclusively, something is happening in e-mobility area. So more and more clusters, if we would be a better, for all of us in the ecosystem to overcome these challenges. Now, best practices by Chitkara University, I would say incubating diverse startups, supporting women entrepreneurs, and 12-month long structured mentoring program we have by the name Startup Day. Flexibility and commitment to our service, tapping into internal talent and alumni network of Chitkara University and its tri-state ecosystem, and develop the effective network of local business service providers and other resources. Implement change as a result of evaluation, hand-holding of tech startups at the ideation stage, and the diverse pool of academia industry mentors which Chitkara has been able to create. On this point, I would like to say that mentoring is very, very critical. Out of what I have experienced in the last 10 years of developing around 6 incubation centers, right from 2012 till date in the state of Punjab and around. Mentoring expertise is very critical for a startup at various stages, and it has to be a diverse set of mentors who hold the patience to stand up to guide these students and wannabe entrepreneurs, and creating opportunities for startups to participate in international and national innovation network, where Chitkara University has been participating in events internationally. We had a lot of big win at the MSME hackathon, which happened in the University of Nottingham at the LEADAC Incubation Center in China, Ningbo. We won the competition and 200,000 yuans. It was a great exposure for our ecosystem to go and compete in a very tough market, very organized market. So that's what. And European Innovation Academy also awarded a scholarship for our 3 startups. One of them was developing an e-bike, which President Suresh in 2019 had inaugurated at the Baddi Center. And result-oriented evaluation, and the most wonderful program which has worked very well for us. In 2019, we started an accelerator program called CAP. We select 20 students from the final year batch, give them credits, and they get off from their final year of education and they get into this 1 year of learning on entrepreneurship, theory plus practicals, and then industry exposure. So we are in our 3rd batch now, which we are going to start on 27th April. The 2 batches have yielded around 9 startups which are commercially up and running with customers today. This is the initiative. These are the initiatives which we have taken, certain of our signature programs. Novate Plus is an expo of prototypes. In fact, in the program Surge, which we conducted in 2019, we had an expo of 27 innovations displayed through the Chitkara Innovation Network and its Center for Research and Innovation. So Surge is our signature program. It goes for a week. That's the video of the program, abridged version, which you just saw. That was Surge. We award the Startup of the Year. We have India Fund Fest program, which we do in partnership with Nescio Cultis and Orbit Future Academy Indonesia and Bangalore. This is a live program, something like a Shark Tank. This is our 3rd edition. Now this year's finale is on 15th of April, just a week from now. And out of 472 applications received from India, including prestigious institutions like IITs and IIMs, we have these 24 finalists who have gone through our investor readiness report for around 3 weeks, and now they're coming into this final. And it is a fund which investors are going to give them. It is these startups are going to get around 1 CR, could be 10 lakh rupees per startup, but it's a very investor supported finale which we are aiming at on the 15th. So we have this program which goes annually. We have a Startup of the Year, as I mentioned, India Innovation Championship. And last point on this slide I would mention is the startup faculty policy which Chitkara made in February 2020. We have 24 startups which are formed by the faculty. So it is a very good collaborative environment which is developing between colleagues, peers, and then faculty and students. Total number of startups, 116. Total number of faculty startups incubated till date, 24. Total number of students sensitized around 9,500 plus. Current incubatees 55. Successful startups graduated 57. 2 startups raised angel investments in the India Fund Fest held at Hyatt Regency Chandigarh on 6th Feb 2020 was 1.3 crore. One is a student startup in e-mobility, and the second one is into traffic management system. They're making a traffic iBot, which has been installed already in Mohali, 7 rotaries already with the Punjab government, and it's a paid project, and students have been able to do a great job, and that company is scaling up very well. Industry mentors, as I mentioned, a very strong industry mentor we have, and or around 17 MOUs with the industry, and startups which got seed funding and grant from the government and non-government agencies is around 17. On the concluding slides, these are our faculty, founders who have set up their companies. Anukai, which is the traffic one I just mentioned, GFF. Sixth UF is into AR-based kindergarten related startup. Wonderful sort of a tab they have developed, and they are right now testing and scaling up. BB Urja. So these are the founders from the faculty, and some of the prominent in the market startups being incubated by Seed. Chai Nagari is setting up their 11th outlet. It is something like a Caventus model, cafes within campuses, and C-Cup is the startup which has been able to develop the e-bike, which is doing transporting local logistics up to 40 to 50 kgs of weight they can carry on their bike. It is doing something pretty well. SchoolPad is an edtech startup. I would like to mention that TriDeal was acquired by a Paytm funded company, Little Apps, in 2015, and that was our first alumni startup. This is what my conclusion would be on the best practices. I hope I'm able to convey the efforts done by the entire team at Chitkara University, and that's what. Any questions and all, we over to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samir, for sharing the practices at Chitkara. Happy to know that you have faculty startup policies and also organizing a faculty hackathon. And good to know that you have 24 startups promoted by faculty. Right? So we'll other presentations and then we'll come for the policy recommendations, if any, for both the states.
Sure.
Thank you, Samir.
Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Now I take the pleasure of introducing Mr. J.K. Sharma, the CEO of the Incubation Center at IIT Rupar. Mr. Sharma has put about 20 years of, more than 30 years of experiences, out of which he has put 20 years of his experiences in societal development activities, which includes women development, child welfare, skill development for youth. And now he has taken the responsibility as the CEO of the Incubation Center at IIT Rupar. May I invite Mr. Sharma to share your best practices? Over to you, Sharma. Mr. Sharma?
Looks like
Some challenges.
he's logged out, or maybe we can.
Yeah. Right. before J.K. Sharma joins us, let us move on to the next presenter, Mr. Prasad of SIBA Mumbai. Prasad has put about 25 years of experiences, out of which 20 years of experience in corporate. And because of the passion, he has moved out of the corporate world and joined the Center for Incubator and Business Accelerator at Mumbai. And he has been very passionate in promoting startups. Right now, about 20 startups have been supported under SIBA. Prasad, over to you to share your good practices.
Thanks, Suresh, and thanks, ISBA, for giving this opportunity to share. And it was an amazing presentation from Samir regarding the best practices. And I think a lot of what he says in terms of challenges, I do echo. What I'll do is I'll try to see if I'm able to share quickly, because I had some problem with my system. Hope my screen is visible to all.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So just in the interest of time, I'll just try to summarize some of the challenges and some of the initiatives that SIBA did. As a part of just to introduce SIBA, it's the first center was established. I think there's an echo that is coming. Probably, I think Sumir or Sumir, you need to mute yourself. Okay, got it. That's better. Thanks, Sumir. So SIBA started in 2012, and it's one of those academic institution hosted TBI, thanks to the initiative by Department of Science and Technology. It's a Section 8 company. We started in Varna in 2012, then in 2014 we opened the second center in Goa, and the third center was opened in Navi Mumbai in 2016. Now, going straight on to the challenges that as an incubator. Now, I myself, I'm new into this whole incubation ecosystem, and I initiated the entire Navi Mumbai incubator in Maharashtra. Now, I think already Sumir mentioned about it. The biggest challenge that I found is the recruitment of talent, this entire thing around incubation managers training. I'm so glad to see that GIZ is actually working on exactly this challenge. I think the Incubating the Incubators program is spot on, because that is indeed the challenge that I saw. Because when I went about recruiting the team, it was almost impossible to get people who have already been there, because it's a very small pool of talent out there when it comes to in the incubation ecosystem. So that's a challenge I saw, and also personally for me, I benefited a lot from all the incubation training that I got through, whether it's through ISBA, whether it's just various government bodies. There was one that was done by Unitas. There was one that was done by UK DPI. So there's a lot of organizations that did it. So that challenge, I think, even today remains as we grow the number of incubators in the country. The second challenge, and I'm just putting the top three challenges, there are many challenges, but I just thought to summarize the top three, is scouting of real mentors. And I use the real and put emphasis there, because there are a lot of experienced corporate leaders who want to get into mentorship. However, getting real mentors, and again, Sumir has touched upon it when he mentions about how do we get about addressing this. But having access to real mentors was the second challenge. And finally, of course, to have a model, because we are a not-for-profit and we are there to ensure that the startups, the aspiring entrepreneurs, get access to all our incubation facilities or incubation program. But how do we make sure that we are able to sustain beyond the initial grants and schemes that we benefit from? So these are the three challenges that I would say, and I would put myself, Dr. Jagdale would be speaking after me, and he's one of those matured expert incubators. And I would put SIBA in the category of emerging incubators because we just started in 2016-17, and that is really a let's say an emerging developing incubator. So some of the steps and initiatives that helped us address this challenge, I think the first one is this entire thing having a mentor incubator. So as a new incubator, it is always encouraged to have a mentor incubator. So SIBA Goa had a mentor incubator in CII, that's part of the IIM Ahmedabad, with a formal agreement. And that helped SIBA Goa, and SIBA Goa's mentorship helped SIBA Navi Mumbai. And I also saw that Chitkara University had a similar thing going on with T-Hub. So I think that is one initiative that helped us address that challenge. And of course, the continuous training, because getting freshers from institutes and training them into the incubator or incubation ecosystem always helps. Look out for startup founders, former entrepreneurs. These are great talent, great people to recruit to be part of your team. Second part of the challenge around real mentors. I think that was very easy. Again, I echo same thing what Chitkara mentioned. Reaching out to the alumni network. So we have a school which is already 3 to 4 decades old. We have an institute which is 25 years into existence. So we reach out to them because then they're driven for the right reasons. They show extremely high levels of patience when it comes to mentoring the startups. They're also driven by purpose and not always trying to get some kind of a monetary or financial compensation out of their engagement. So I think this has helped us really scouting the right mentors, because we started off by putting out there, inviting mentors from the industry, from corporate world, from the startup world, and we got a lot of applications. And I personally started talking to each one of them, and I realized that not many can provide the kind of coaching that is required, the kind of counseling that is required, especially for the very early stage startups. So using this method of reaching out to alumni network helps a lot. And of course, we have a pool of matured incubatees. Those incubatees who have already gone through our incubation. Now these founders have already raised the funds, have got the traction in the market. So they also would love to give back to the incubator. So I tap onto them, and they are always present. They're always willing to help and support. In fact, I reach, that's for us is what I call the real mentors. The other part in terms of talking about the model, what is the right model for an incubator? I think what we have realized is that there's no one size fits all. I'm sure different cities and different states have different realities. So we are in Navi Mumbai, which is like a satellite city close to Mumbai. And what we have seen, Suresh, I think you need to mute yourself because I can hear an echo from your.
One second.
Yeah, thanks. So what we need to do is, there is no one size fits all, and there is no a similar type of pipeline that comes into an incubation ecosystem. What happens is that we get all kinds, right from faculty driven to students to startups which are already been struggling for 3-4 years and needing incubation. We're not aware of incubation. So we have all different kinds of applicants who approach our incubator. And what we have done is, for each one of them, we try to create something or the other to help and support them. I think that is, for me, also helps me from a business and financial model point of view. Because if you have some matured startup who may not fit into may not tick all the boxes with regards to a tech startup, highly innovative, doing new product development, but maybe doing something different and needs only support for 3 to 6 months. And to support them allows us to do our bit, but also allows us to get a revenue stream from these matured 3 to 4 year old startup as well. So what I'm trying to say is that what SIBA did well was that we had this entire portfolio of services that we could offer for each group of these applicants that come to our incubator. Now, outcome, right? I think what's important is that how do we define success for incubator, right? So what do we actually measure on? I'll not go through all the details of the KPIs that we measure. We being an incubator, totally supported fully by Department of Science and Technology, we have been using the objectives of DST to set up the TBIs, and using them, we try to see what is the KPI to measure that ensures that we have reached the objective or not, right? For example, to promote new technology, innovation-based startups, to create jobs. Well, these are the objectives that were, when we started the incubator, these were the objectives based on which the TBI was established. So we have 5 KPIs that we track in order to say that what is the outcome, and is it really successful or not. So this is only for financial year 1920, 2021. We are just we just finished the financial year, so we haven't yet put it on the slide. But so we track a number of incubated startups during that year, and also the cumulative since inception. So we have 20 startups that got incubated in 1920, and 2021 is pretty much the same. I'm talking about Mumbai. Then we have Varna and Asagaon. The first 2 are in Goa. So total, the 3 incubators put together 160 startups were incubated in the financial year 2019-20. Then we look at employment generated, right? I think we ask what is each startups, how many employees do they have, and have they managed to recruit? And you see a big number in Mumbai, because one of our startups, Commutech, was into employee mobility, and so they had they worked with fleet owners, and they recruited a lot of operational staff for each of these fleet owners. So we had a huge recruitment. So that's where the 438 that comes into play. So that's another measure. So we managed to get about 500 employment generated through these startups for financial year 1920. The next is turnover generated. So what is the kind of sales? Of course, these are startups. Not everyone would get become revenue, generate revenue in their first year of existence. But you could see that over the years, and especially some of our startups in Mumbai had a good turnover in the year 1920, and so close to 90 crores was the turnover in the financial year 2019-20. The next, of course, is graduated startups, right? And then when we talk about graduated startups, we mean that these startups are now at a stage where they're already generating income. They got their first set of customers, and now they're in the total phase, the stage of acceleration. So because we started only in 2017 in our operation in Mumbai, only 3 startups graduated in the year 1920. In the year 2021, 6 startups graduated from Mumbai. The other measure, outcome that we measure is the external funding raised. And I think this is also a great thing, because if we are making these startups fundable, so investable, so if you make them investable startups and they are able to get external funding, that is a validation of their business model. There is a validation of the maturity that they had when they approached to external investors. So so that those are the numbers there. That about 19 crores was raised in the year financial year 1920 by various startups. These are just workshops and trainings that we conduct to create awareness. And of course, number of new products and technologies that were launched by these startups at the incubator. And you'll see a big number there in Mumbai, 44. And these are mostly new products that some of the startups started seeing, were able to package and sell products, whether it's in a SaaS platform, whether it's a service model. So they were able to constantly create new products in a span of 1 or 2 years, and that's why that the high number of 44 is over there. But again, all are tech enabled and all are opportunity driven and revenue driven. So just final slide on key learnings. I think what I would, and these are just my own learnings from this journey of SIBA, an emerging incubator in Maharashtra. I would say the first is within the incubator that we need to inculcate a culture of always welcome and always willing to hear out, because I saw this, that the kind of application that we get be from not just from all around Maharashtra, but also from out of the state. And the team and myself, we have brought that culture that we should always be completely open. We also encourage people to talk in their own regional languages. They may not be able to communicate to us. So all aspiring entrepreneurs and innovators should find the incubator a safe and welcoming space to reach out to. We always say we are not, we are not venture capitalists, we are not PE firms, we are not investors, and we are a not-for-profit, which means that this is a space where they should walk in, they should be able to contact us and be able to articulate if they have an idea, if they're already working on something. And so that is one thing that I find is a very important culture that one needs to develop in an incubator. The other part is that we need to acknowledge that no incubator can match up to all the needs of the incubator. At different stage of the journey of the startup, there will be different requirements. And as an incubator, we should not be too possessive and try to own the incubator. We should allow the incubator to prosper and grow based on that incubator's need. For example, we have startups that are into social impact. Now, the best way to for them to grow after a particular stage is to be part of another social impact incubator like Social Alpha or Will Grow, right? Similarly, we have startups that need access to very deep technology which we do not have. So this whole thing of co-incubation becomes a very important part, and that should be encouraged as much as possible, because the journey should be the journey of startup, and what does the incubator do at what stage for the startup, rather than the journey of the incubator. That should be that's what I have learned from my experience. And of course, very important to keep our costs low and the revenue model stable in order to cover as much operational expense as possible. And there is no one size fits all approach. You have to be prepared to be flexible. We created different models. We've worked with different ways of engaging different financial structures with the incubators. But this is something that we have to constantly be prepared for, right? And finally, I think this is something which I found based on my interaction with multiple new incubators under the MSME or under the RUSA or different schemes, is that a lot of them have a challenge because they are either tied to the host institute as professors or as faculty, but they do not get the entire support from the trustees in the governing body. I think it is absolutely critical that you have full trust and confidence of the governing body, governing council, or the trustees of your host institute, because that will make your life very easy. Because running an incubator is not like running an academic program. It's not an academic program. It's business incubation. So it will require a different kind of approach, a different kind of skill set. I think that's it from me. We'll be open to questions as and when the structure of the panel allows. Thanks, Suresh. Over to you.
Thank you, Prasad. It's amazing to see your numbers rising, external funding to about 57 crores cumulatively in 4 or 5 years, right? And having 107 technologies. And also putting in the nutshell about the key learnings, right? Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Now I invite Mr. J.K. Sharma, IIT Rupert CEO, to share his experiences. And you have about 7 minutes of time, Mr. Sharma, to share your experiences. Over to you.
Thank you, Suresh, and I'm thankful to ISBA for inviting us. But unfortunately, I have not received the mails. You called me yesterday. I received only one mail for which I have shared my profile. So I will apologize for not sharing my this slides. So I will just brief about IIT Roper Technology Business Incubator. So this is a DST funded, DST approved technology business incubator. We got our approval in 2017, but we got our grant in 2020 only, because we have to, being IIT Ropar is a second generation IIT, and we have to move to the new campus, and this space allocated to the technology business incubator was not ready. So we got our approval grant in 2020. So IIT Ropar, if known, this is a second generation IIT. It is in Roopnagar, and the nickname, the old name is Ropar, and it is 45 kilometers from Chandigarh. We have allocated in the last few years. We have won the Times Higher Education Award and other allocates, which put us on the international framework. So IIT Ropar Technology Business Incubator is having 5 thrust areas on which we are working as per our requirement of our area. So currently we are having 12 startup companies with us. And before setting up of establishment of technology business incubator, 8 companies were funded from here, maximum working into 1 crore rupees. And they are right now at the international level. Some of the largest scale business. Omnipresent is one of them. Vegan is one of them. So right now, the startup companies we are having, majorly they are from the deep agtech area. So currently, if we talk about our 4 or 3 top companies, then we have Scratchnest, those who are working on the DPI. They are developing the country-made system equipments on radio frequency. Yeah. And then we have Ogniscent. They are working with Indian Defense Forces. It is a AR VR based technology based equipment. They are developing one helmet which will be largely used by the Indian Defense Forces. Right now, this equipment, this was a problem statement by the Indian Armed Forces, and from after taking this problem from their website, they have started working on this, and this prototype is almost ready. The field visit was due in October last year, but because of the pandemic, they have requested us that not mean. So it will be having its field trial with the Western Command based at Chandigarh. So the third company we are having is Yoboshu. This is a company looking on health and nutrition. This is being run by one of our first woman entrepreneur of IIT Ropar. The girl Shivanshi Verma is from the mechanical engineering backside, and she's working on this startup of healthcare and nutrition. We have started 2 types of schemes here. The number 1 is the seed support system. Maximum seed support is given at a 4.5 lakh rupees in 3 tranches, and it is for the 9 months, having 3 milestones with them. And after this, those who get for the next phase of it, then we provide a soft loan. That is the equity-based soft loan, which is for maximum limit of this soft loan is 20 lakh rupees, provided the same matching amount is being invested by the independent investors or the industry. So we have good success stories here. After getting our grant, this is a good success rate in our point of view, because we got our grant in 2020 September, and we are doing a lot of things. The good practices which I was taking from slide is that we are of the opinion that we should give them all such circumstances which can they focus to work on their area. We have 2 independent chartered accountants. We have 1 independent company secretary. We have 1 independent legal expert on our panel. And these professionals advise our companies or our students that how to incorporate a company, what should be the shareholding pattern, and other compliances which is required. So we even not opinion that our incubates should work more than 1 or 2 hours in a month to look after on their compliances. The chartered accountant we have annual. He will be charging us quarterly on the basis. So all audit, annual audit, all GST compliances, all TDS compliances, and other MCA compliances, which is required in the very first or 2 or 3 years, they will be made by these professionals. But our startups will be focusing only on working their concept, so that in the 9 months short span of time, they could deliver and get into the second stage of the soft loan funding, which is a very lucrative amount. That is of maximum amount is of 20 lakh rupees. We are having our tie-up with the TIE Chandigarh. We are having our with the 5 good groups, school groups here, as well as 3 universities here. So under this tie-up, we are the nodal agency. IT Roper TBF is a nodal agency from the Punjab Startup Cell. They also forward their application being received at their portal for evaluation. And in case they get evaluated and they get, after evaluation, if they get approval of the expert committee, so then we also extend our facility of 4.5 lakh rupees seed fund, as well as of the 20 lakh rupees soft loan facility. So this is a good issue we having. These are such of the allocates we have. One of our companies, Scratchiness, I told the director, Mr. Amit Bhatti, he won the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award last year on Tycoon. And Ms. Shivanshi Verma also awarded Young Entrepreneur of the Year award by the Rotary International. So these are such of the allocates we have taken in last 1 year. This is the success story. So it is all from my case of any query. I'm ready to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma, for sharing your experiences. And you are one of the youngest incubation manager. Right? And it's good to know that we have put a separate initiative to look after the compliances.
But on the lighter note, after seeing Prasad, he's quite older. कि जैसे जैसे यंगस्टर से ओल्ड होते जाएंगे, ये बाल उठते जाएंगे.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Now it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Rajendra Jagdale, the Director General of Science and Technology, Pune, who has been steering this incubation center for nearly 2 decades. Not only the incubation center, but also the incubation community. As the secretary of the association, as the president of the association, he has contributed for shaping our ISBA too. So over to you, sir, and we look forward to listen from you, because you have been involved in all the sides of the ecosystem. You have been part of the policymakers at Government of Maharashtra's initiative. You have been there as an incubation manager, and also you have been there closely engaging with the international incubation centers, and you have brought in that practices long back in 2003-04 with your association with France, right? So we look forward to hear from you, and you have got over to you.
Thanks, Suresh. Thanks, Isba. Even Dr. Anita is probably present there. It has been really a pleasure to follow this journey of incubation with ISBA community. And it has been a great learning from myself, that I've learned a lot from all my colleagues. So what I am, if at all people call it successful incubator manager, it's all because of the input that I've received from all the colleagues from across India. What I'm going to deal today is not talk about science and technology park incubator particularly, just about one incubator, but about generic traits of what kind of support is available within the state of Maharashtra, and what are the challenges and what needs to be done. So I'll take a larger perspective than the STEP Pune as such. Very briefly, STEP Pune, one of the oldest STEP and incubator. We started our activity on the University of Pune campus. The University of Pune was our host. It has been our host since 1986. We registered as a trust and society in 1990, but started operation in 1986. And but our incubation program was not that old. Of course, our main mandate that time was to provide consulting services and promote rather entrepreneurship, not entrepreneurship, then within the faculty, and providing it was just like an industry academia bridge, and that's how we started. But since we started incubation activity, directly we have supported nearly 150 companies directly, but virtually and indirectly. Directly, I mean physically incubated within our incubator is about 150, but virtually we have incubated probably few hundreds, probably might be 1,000 over a period of 2.5 decades. So, but recently, what we have at Science and Technology Park started doing is, instead of we setting up multiple incubators ourselves, we are mentoring other institutions and industries to set up incubators. We came up with a innovative program called CIII, Center for Invention, Innovation and Incubation. And we are working with academic institutions to set up incubators. It's not only the incubator, because the incubator alone needs entrepreneurs pipeline, and the pipeline will come with a lot of skill training, a lot of other activities like idea to prototype support. So we set up CIII, the Center for Invention, Innovation and Incubation. So and also we provide co-working space. So we have created maybe about 75,000 square foot of space at 3 or 4 different locations, two in Pune, outside, other than the step Pune, one in Navi Bombay, one in Satara, and many more are coming up. Now we are also working with government of Maharashtra that why can't our existing skill training centers like ITIs, for example, some of the very high-end ITIs and polytechnics and technical training schools, and we have 917 ITIs in the state of Maharashtra, and large number, about 182 technical schools, other than polytechnics, of course. There are technical schools which are below the polytechnic level. So we have now come up with a program jointly with industries, which is about 15,000 crore plus program jointly with industries, wherein industries will contribute more than 80%, and 20%, roughly about 20% will come from the government of Maharashtra. So that's a challenging program that we have taken with the government, and we hope that quite a few of them will emerge into incubation centers. At least out of 917, there are about 419 which are public and rest are private. So even if 10% of those graduate into incubation, it's a huge. Because I always feel for the state of for a state like Maharashtra, having 30-40 incubators is a very small and insignificant number. It's a very small number. So I feel we should have at least 250 to 300 incubators. So how do we do this? Because existing support that we get from whether it's a DST, MSME, AIM Niti Aayog, or METI, all these ministries is always going to be limited. There will be always challenges with the government, how much government can support for the incubation program. So we have to learn to engage with industries very closely and partner with them. And I'm very happy to that several industries in the state of Maharashtra are coming up with their own incubation support program. So they are pitching their own funds, maybe through CSR, or the founders of these companies. They have their own private personal funding, and they are putting into incubation support, which is very, very good. And I see new emerging trend that's happening. So far, I would still feel that there's not much of awareness about incubation in general among industries, because they always see, even that we have been talking about on ISBA platform, also on ISBA platform, industries are yet not they have not yet understood the importance of putting their CSR money into incubation program. Still they see funding on project to project basis. So project basis funding, CSR funding, is the only funding that is available so far, because industries are not aware. I think at ISBA level, we must make an effort to see that industries understand what is this new way of supporting incubator through CSR. That is something which needs to, that will give us a lot of funding for incubation. We need to go beyond, I would say, DST plus. DST, of course, is the pioneer in the country. Nobody has understood the way DST has understood incubation program, and other ministries must learn from this initiative. Actually, unfortunately, not much has been learned. I am known to be very vocal. Whether the way the Atal incubation mission, if you see the success story, amount of funding that's available, kind of spaces that is required for sustainability. I think whether it is a MSME, whether it is a METI, if you see this programs, I think there's something which is lacking for building sustainable incubators. Still, we are talking about 5,000 square foot, 15,000 square foot, 10,000 square foot of space, 15 lakhs of support, 5 lakhs of support, 25 lakhs of seed funding, which is, and we expect our startups to become large companies. I think there is a mismatch within our expectation and the kind of support that the states are providing. I'm happy to tell you that government of Maharashtra, even though policy-wise, there's a great initiative. The action-wise, I have my own reservations, and I know, luckily, most of the people who matter in the government of Maharashtra, whether they're ministers or the secretaries, we're trying to push them. But policy-wise, we have MSME policy, we have IT policy, we have BT policy, we have textile policy, we have animation and gaming policy. So policy and industry policy, every policy talks about incubation. Every policy talks about supporting incubation. But in action, the policy is not translated into action. So I think our existing senior incubator managers and incubators must rather work closely and engage with the government to see that these policies are converted into action. Now, there is a policy that every industrial zone in the state of Maharashtra should have an incubator. But except one or two places where there are physical spaces called incubator, there's nothing, no action. But there's a policy. So I think we must find how we can engage with the states to effectively implement their own policies, which are already existing. They are very good in making policy. So that is something which is very important. We know that in the state of Maharashtra, we have Maharashtra State Innovation Society, and Innovation Society has been engaging by and large with academic institutions. And most of the academic institutions, the moment they get, so government of Maharashtra said, okay, we will give you 5 crore rupees, set up incubator. Now it is very difficult, because without knowing what the incubator is and what the new baby they are going to nurture, setting up incubator is very difficult, and it's a difficult challenge. Now, by and large, there is not awareness about how to manage incubators. So again, we need to engage with them, even though it may be free. Do not expect any financial rewards. But some of the senior incubators can mentor this in these universities and academic institutions to how to set up and manage their own incubators, because funding is there, but they do not know what to do with funding. And so it should not happen that this is one of the activity academic institution conducts because there's a accreditation for NAC, give a better score if you have incubation program. That should not happen. I think that needs to be changed. I would be rather happy to discuss more in Q&A than giving formal presentation. I would like to stop here. Yeah, thank you, Suresh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the big picture and sharing your thoughts and taking the community forward as a whole. And the policymakers are also here in this forum, and it is like a closed room forum that we are organizing this event. And I think we'll deliberate on this, your concerns further right, in coming days. Thank you, and we'll also make a note in the recommendations that we are going to submit to the agencies. Thank you very much for sharing your views, sir.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Shiv Shankar, the CEO of SJCE Mysore STEP, which is one of the earliest STEP which has been started in 1980s, 83, 84, under the support of National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board. And I request Mr. Shiv Shankar to moderate the session. We have the CEOs from IMA, from Derby, from CCMB, and from IKP, then to share their views and experiences in promoting innovation and incubation ecosystem in their respective regions. Over to you, Shiv Shankar, and you have about 20 to 25 minutes for the panel, and
okay.
You can do as effective as possible.
Right. Thank you, Suresh, and then very good morning to all the members and also the panelists here. And then it's my pleasure to be a part of this session. I think the previous discussion actually set the stage for us. Look at the things, or maybe discuss in a different way. Because by and large, the panelists that earlier, Samir has covered a lot of good governance part of that, or maybe strategy part of that. Prasad has shared a few insights on their key learnings and the KPIs which they are measured for the incubator activity. And then also Dr. Jagdale has gone into the much more details into the policy levels and then how that needs to be looked at into that. So let's look at this particular session slightly differently, and what are the things we can come up with in terms of the best practices, or maybe the challenges, or maybe something we can share with other incubating association partners like that. With this, I would like to welcome the panelists into this discussion. Mr. Vipul Patel, Partner Seed Investing from CIE IIM Ahmedabad. Vipul, welcome to this session. Dr. Lakshmi Jagannathan, CEO, Derby Foundation from Bangalore. Madam, welcome to the session.
Thank you, Shiv Shankar.
Mr. Vikraman Venu, CEO, IKP Eden, Bangalore and Hyderabad. Vikram, welcome to the session.
Thank you.
Dr. Ramji, CEO, AIC, CCMB from Hyderabad again. So he's working on deep tech space. Ramji, welcome to the session.
Thanks, sure. Thanks a lot.
I welcome all the dignitaries and then the participants here for this particular session. And how I'm going to do that, like I'll ask the panelists to talk about their incubators for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to the open discussion and then the Q&A kind of a thing. To start with, I request Ramji, if you would like to take us through the your incubator's journey, just in the brief, so that it will be useful for us.
Yeah, thanks, Shiva. So we are AIC CCMB supported by AIM Niti Aayog, 3.5 to 4 years age incubation center. Yeah, once we have the incubation funds for any incubator, I think we have to look for different verticals of engagement, how we are actually covering different areas specific to single domain, because we are specific to, we're working for life science and healthcare area. However, we touched upon different verticals in the sense we partnered with BIRAC to take care of, a SPOSH program where we are supporting some fellows, social innovation fellows. Again, we touched upon with Mighty Startup Hub to encourage ICT interventions in life science and healthcare, where we got a lot of data from CCMB, NGS data, and also we can actually identify any specific diseases considering those data analytics. And we having about 40 plus startups supported and innovators supported here in this domain. We also need a lot of support in the seed level. Seed is the key for any incubator. So we partnered with NSTEDP. So these different partnerships that we made so far, so that we can actually address different areas. Even starting from school student innovators like Niti Aayog have SIP program, we could able to nurture about 7 teams, and out of them 4 got selected in the top level. So we are encouraging them to go for patenting and enterprise setup. So this is one way we created the pipeline here in the complete life science and healthcare area, from student innovation to industrialization. So that's what we are now in Hyderabad. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the brief introduction on that, Ramji. I'll now go to Madam Lakshmi Jagannath from Bangalore Davi Foundation. Madam, quickly, a few minutes of your journey so far.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, Shiv Shankar. Good morning to everybody. Derby Foundation is hosted by Dayanand Sagar Group. We are based out of Bangalore. I think ours is a classic story of how we started as a IEDC supported by DST way back in 2009. And IEDC, the way we were running was more like actually a pre-incubation program itself in the campus. And we grew into a full-fledged TPI with the DST support in 2016. I think from there on, we have grown, I would say, from strength to strength, getting various DST support programs. Now we are a center for Nidhi Prayas, Nidhi AR, Nidhi Triple S. And of course, we have also run one cohort of incubation program. Having said that, we also are, we are constantly learning, evolving. I think as my friend Prasad was mentioning, we are an emerging incubator, always on the learning, on the go. And so last 2 years plus, we have been very strongly focused on health tech, primarily trying to leverage the strength of the host institution itself. As a group, Sagar Group has 3 hospitals and a teaching hospital and also a medical college. So which is a very fertile live lab for most of the healthcare startups. So I think that is one differentiator we've been trying to build. Other one is also trying to strengthen our own network of working more closely with the industry, with the corporates, so that there's an access for GTM for the startups. I think probably I would say these are the 2 waves we are trying to strengthen our own incubator efforts. So, I would say we are always a learning incubator, so learning on the go. So having said that, I think the details probably we could also discuss in the discussion part.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madam, for the brief introduction about Derby Foundation. I'll move on to Vipul Patel from IIM Ahmedabad. Vipul, and I know that you're in particularly into the seed investing, but give us snapshot of how the IIM is. I know that you've got a big organizations, but would like to hear briefly about IIM Ahmedabad incubation activities.
Thanks, Shiv Shankar. And good morning, everyone. I'll quickly or briefly talk about what we do at the center, right? So we are an incubation, we are innovation continuum based out of IIM Ahmedabad, supported by Department of Science and Technology. We provide incubation, acceleration, investment, and business advisory support to the early stage startup. CI.co, as it's known today, we set up as an academic center called Center for Innovation, Incubation, and Entrepreneurship sometime back in 2002. Primarily that time, the more focus was doing the research around the entrepreneurship. As the Indian startup ecosystem has begun to open up, we have actually set up the non-profit organization called CI Initiative in 2008, and we started actually our incubation activity and started working with the startup. We have continued to fill the multiple ever evolving gaps in this Indian innovation-driven entrepreneurship space with a novel and path-breaking base. Some of our initiatives, we have conceptualized India's first acceleration program in 2009 called iAccelerator program. We are the first one who started the clean tech focus and so far the only one clean tech focused fund called Infuse Ventures. We have designed and hosted India's largest acceleration program called Power of Idea. We have done the 4 edition in the partnership with Department of Science and Technology. Apart from this, from the learning from the iAccelerator program, we have hosted multiple sector-focused accelerator program in mobility, clean tech, healthcare, agri, civic tech, craft, and many more. Overall, till date, we have accelerated more than 1,000 plus startups, funded more than 500 plus startups in terms of the catalytic capital in form of the grant or equity. We have coached more than 5,000 plus individual entrepreneur startup till date, inspired more than 1 million people through our different publication, including the book called Stay Foolish, Stay Hungry. till date, a lot of people talk about like early stage support and the startup will not be able to provide exit. Till date, we have a 30 plus profitable exits, with giving a lot of good cushion for a sustainability to the incubators. We have so far 6 acquisition from the portfolio itself. In 2018, the DST has recognized us as one of the center of excellence and provided right now providing support to scale up our operation. In 2018, we have actually reorganized ourselves to set up the 5 business unit within the CI.co. This is just to achieve the KPIs we have set up for Center of Excellence. So currently we have a 4 business unit within the CI. The first business unit we call as a Nest, which is primarily responsible for the incubation, more about the physical incubation and also regional initiatives. The second business unit we call as a Catalyst, which is more focused on running the sector focus and sector agnostic national level program and providing grant and investment support to the startup. Over there, we are actually managing equity investment portfolio of 200 plus startups. The third business unit we have is called Insight, which is primarily focusing on the research. So a lot of learning we have from this portfolio, we convert into the case studies and a lot of domain sectorial report, which will be as helpful for training the entrepreneur. And the fourth is basically a capital. Over there, we are actually managing 2 large venture fund. One fund is focusing on IP-led innovation, and second fund is investing into the inclusion-based startup. We are a team of 70 plus people working across the different geography. We have office in Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Jaipur, and we also have some of the team members working out of Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Delhi as well. So this is, I'm happy to answer any specific questions later on.
Thanks, Vipul. I think you can see a sense that the IIM has gone through some sea changes, from the inception, till date. I think I will I'll try and pick your brain during the discussion session. So before that, I'll ask Vikraman, CEO IKP, to brief a couple of minutes on IKP activities and then your incubation activities.
Sure. Thank you so much. So IKP is, out of the 4 of us, we are a private player, and we are not associated with an academic institute. We are actually a science park and a startup incubator. So we were set up by ICICI and the Telangana government back in 2000 as a science park. And then the incubation program began in Hyderabad in 2006. We began an incubation program in Bangalore in 2015, which is called Eden. And then post that 2017 onwards, we have actually set up incubation spaces in Belgaum, Mysore, Bangalore, Shimoga, and one more in North Bangalore. So that's totally about 7, it's a chain of 7 physical incubation centers. In terms of funding programs, we have worked with various agencies like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, USAID, UK8, of course, DST, DBT, big supporters in all of this. So we have managed to run equity funding programs, grant funding programs in partnership with all of these partners. The Hyderabad Center was supported by DST in 2006-07 when it was first started. The Bangalore Center is also supported by DST under the Nidhi TBI program and under the Nidhi Prayas program. Also supported by Department of Biotechnology to set up the biotech infrastructure that the startups use. We have had, again, good numbers in terms of more than 750 entrepreneurs encouraged through funding or physical incubation. We have had a good number of funding programs, over 35 funding programs that we have run. We have set up a venture fund, which is called the India Innovation Fund. We had big exits with Mitra Biotech, Sedamac, and all of those. Among the seed fund that we invested with BIRAC, we have Inito, which is the first Y Combinator company in medical devices from India, also the first FDA approved diagnostic from India. We have Dozy, which is again applying for their FDA right now. They've raised a Series A recently. The most successful company that came out of IKP will be Loris Labs, which is now a $1.5 billion company. They've gone public in December 2016, now about 9,000 plus crores worth. So across life sciences, medical devices, renewable energy, mostly non-e-commerce, non-fintech, that's been our focus. And we worked across helping both on the public health front and on the private side as well. Yeah.
Thanks for the brief introduction, Vikram. I can see that all four of us, all the four panelists are having a different set of the incubation and then the different focus areas. Except I can see that because they are existing from the ages and then they have best practices already built into the system. Coming to our own SDC step in Mysore, I think Suresh already mentioned that we have been existing from 35 years into the ecosystem. And I feel that sometimes people feel that we're supposed to be having one of the best practices in place. So far, I've been looking to that. Like any other startup, sometimes we feel that early entrants are maybe early, market entry may not be even favorable to the startups as well. Like that, step what we are in a Mysore is like in a tier 2 cities, been in existing from 35 years. We have sustained the model, so that is one of the good thing that I can watch into that. Like I am also we have been working on a lot of areas in supporting a startup, and fortunately like a sustainability model has been so far so good. And but coming to the scalability or maybe expansion, I think is we are as incubators we are a limitation, and that we need to agree and understand that. So we play within the geographic locations. If you look at that 85 when the things are started, we did not have the internet and so many other limitations which we supposed to be play with that kind of a thing. So we, as an incubator, I think we are going to see changes from 3-4 cycles. You can see that. So early is like more about the training and developing on entrepreneurs and then supporting MSME category, supporting a food sector category. 2001 onwards into the IT and ITS category, and 2020 onwards into the electronics and then product category kind of a thing. So that changes also needs to be observed carefully because any operational setup once we decided, I think it calls for again the capital investments and changes. Sometimes it is not affordable and bearable to the some of the incubators, especially operating remotely from tier 2 and then beyond that. So it's like that. Yes, there are a lot of learnings. I'll also share along with that. The first right question to Vikram, because all other incubators are in academic setup, and there are always expectations. There are pipelines available through the students and things like that. But how do you look at as a private entity? And is also a solution which Mr. Jagdale has mentioned earlier. Like we need more of the incubators and not necessarily only academically set up incubators, but also the privately one. So how do you know? What are your suggestions or maybe recommendations if somebody wanted to set like that?
Okay, so if the question is on sustainability, then I'll answer that. So setting up is never an issue because there is always somebody who is sponsoring the setup. Either it's a academic institute or a high net worth individual. You're always able to get investment to do the setup. It's the running of the center that tends to be a problem, right? So at Eden, which is in Koramangala, we were competing with all of the co-working spaces around us. So we had to compete with that market more than we had to compete with any other incubator. But the location advantage was extremely great for us. And we were able to reach full occupancy in 2019. We were able to reach month-on-month operational sustainability for the entire year. Probably while paying commercial rent for a 25,000 square foot building. So you can imagine it was commercial operation somewhere in the range of 2.5 crores per year, fully sustainable. Of course, COVID, we have lost occupancy of around 35%. So there is obviously a hit, but we managed to make it work at least for a couple of years, 2018 and 2019. In Mangalore, we were able to reach a kind of operational sustainability for a few months at least, again, COVID. But in the other cities, we definitely had difficulties reaching fully sustainable operations. So the operational deficit is supported by either the Karnataka government, in the case of the Belgaum centers, the Shimoga centers, etc. And till Eden had the Nidhi TBI grant, we could obviously fall back on that. And now IKP Hyderabad being a science park, being a sustainable entity by itself is actually supporting the deficit. So that's how we have been running this.
Yeah. Thanks for that. I think you also mentioned, I think beyond tier 1 cities, challenges of operating and incubating and incubation activities is quite up. And Dr. Prasad earlier mentioned that how somebody needs to clearly get the host institution strength on their side to make it much more stronger, their case or maybe operational. So I'll put that question to the Vipul Patel. Like, where do you see that, how the IIM has come, leveraging and strength of the, host institution so that probably a lot of people are struggling in that way because the kind of mindset is required to, deliver the things for the incubation activities and then academic activities is there is divergence in that one. So how do you build that confidence and then get your host institution on your side? What was the
Okay.
activities you roll into that?
So if you talk, and I think this is the one of the point I think we have actually discussed in a multiple forum where there are a lot of cases where there is a friction between the host institution, and especially for academic institution, the incubator, right? And that's what I think. What I think there are few practices we have created internally, and that was working very well. So having, if you look at the IIM Ahmedabad as academic institution, and we have a very clear, basically you can say relationship in between operating side of the incubator and strategic side of the incubator, right? So if you look at our engagement with our host institution, it's a 3-layer. So first is basically IMA is very clear in terms of they basically involve wherever there is a strategic input required. And there is 100% autonomy in terms of the operation, the kind of program we are designing, the kind of program we are running, the way we select, the way we basically hire the people, is everything is on the operating side is given to the incubator. So there is no, they will not basically, they are not involving at a day-to-day operation. On a strategic side, we are leveraging a lot. So if I talk about, we have a representation on our board. So I am a director itself, along with a few professors, are actively basically participating in at our board level as well as our governance level, right? So that we are getting a very fantastic input over there, and that is a one layer of engagement. Second is basically as a part of our incubation and acceleration activity, we do a lot of training program to basically train these startups, right? And over there, we design a lot of training curriculum, we design a lot of case studies, and this is something we do in a consultation with IMA Prof. So what we have realized that IMA is basically also designing a lot of small MDP program for corporates, as well as their core is basically for this whole, their main program called PGP and all. But based on this two, whatever the way they are designing the program, how we can actually design some of the interesting or curriculum we can design, which will be helpful for training the entrepreneur during the acceleration program. So that is one level of collaboration we do. Second, what we realize, even if you look at the case studies, which right now most of the business schools are basically using for a teaching purpose for the student, there is a lot of interest in terms of the using the case study around the startups. So if you look at earlier, there is a lot of case study about the large corporations and the organization, but now students are also more interested, even professors are also interested in terms of how they can use some of the upcoming basically technology-led startup as a case study. So over there, we basically collaborate a lot. There is a lot of case studies we have actually created together on our own portfolio startup. And also these are the case studies we are using for training our entrepreneur, as well as IMA is using these case studies for training the student, right? So that is a second layer of engagement we are doing with the host institution. And third is basically on the business development side. So if you look at, all are basically a startup, all incubators are a startup, and by having or by operating within the any academic setup is basically how we can use their brand as an academic institution, because
Right.
as academic institutions, they have it's a large alumni base, there is a lot of connection with the corporate, a lot of trust factor when it comes to the institution level, right? Over there we leverage a lot, so we get a lot of benefit in terms of making the introduction to the large corporation for leveraging the CSR fund, introduction for foundations for designing the very specific programs. We use through institution, we also leverage a lot of alumni who are willing to invest either in a fund or might be directly as an angel investor. So all strategic level, basically you can say benefits we are actually getting out the host institution, and IMA is very clear, they are not basically involved at operating level, and there is a full autonomy the way we basically operate as a centers in supporting the startup.
So it means that I think all the use the brand of the institution, use the professors and faculties like the Chitkara institution have done, like faculty, entrepreneurs and then students combined together. So I think one of the fantastic best case studies, I can look into that. So coming to the the uniqueness of the incubator, I know that everybody is having a challenge, which focus areas need to be looked into that. So how easy and how difficult? I'm going to Dr. Lakshmi Jagannathan on that. So where do that USP of the incubator needs to start with, either at the beginning or over a period of time they need to look at, okay, we need to focus on one area and not go behind it.
Thanks, Shushankar. I think incubators have to understand, all of us, I mean, we are learning it the hard way, but still we are learning on the go. And especially if you are a government funded incubator, you have a short span of window, because before the 5 years of government funding gets over, you have to learn, stabilize, and then grow after that. I think that's very critical. So from day one, I think the learning has to start. So what we did in our case, I think when we started our incubation program in 2016 was when we got our first tranche of DST money. 2017, when we launched our first cohort, we said we will do IoT AI startups. And Bangalore is a very active ecosystem and a very crowded ecosystem also, right? So being in, I think Bangalore has close to 100 government, private, all incubators put together, accelerators, must be more than that. So in such a crowded space, if we have to make our presence felt, add value, it's a huge challenge. So what we did consciously was, probably because we had a very good transition from IEDC and then moved to TBI. Management of the institution was very confident and gave me all the freedom to do. I think that's very, very critical. Yeah. And I think some of the earlier speaker, I think either Prasad or Dr. Jagdale mentioned that incubator is a Section 8 company, not one more academic department in the campus. I think this should be very, very consciously remembered. So what we did when we formed the board, we brought all very good stalwarts from the ecosystem on the advisory board. To represent the interest of the host institution, only I am there. So rest are all people from the ecosystem. See, if I go with people, I think their case is a totally different scenario, because IM is a totally different league of institution. They are in the tier 1. But talking about tier 2 institution, making your management agree that, get that confidence, saying they'll give you the full go to handle, is a bit of a challenge. But thanks to the management, I think I have the full freedom to take care of the operations, have the advisory board, number 1. And the board is so robust and strong that board meets every quarter and gives the real involvement and gives us the real input. Go ahead. There are angel investors, there are corporates. We have very good board. I think that's another thing. So starting with what I said early on, and we started with IoT AI, that's what the board mandated, number 1. And the board was also very, very clear that the incubators should be sustainable at least 2-3 years down the line. So they said, we will form an internal mechanism in the institution where every campus of the Dhyanand Sagar institution had an entrepreneurship cell for students and probably some of the faculty, and very mature entrepreneurs from the ecosystem Derby will look into. From day 1, we were very conscious that we would work more like an incubator for the ecosystem than for our own students. So that was very, very clearly defined. So when we started IoT AI, after first year, a lot of applications, applications, whether industrial IoT, starting from smart cities to, of course, edutech to health tech, we realized we could not add value add to multiple domains. Then again, we went back to the board. I think this discussion with the board, we've been having very, very constantly, frequently. Then they said, we formed small sections of the board, formed smaller committees, and did a lot of introspection as to how do we leverage our own strength. How do we make ourselves different from the rest of the other incubators in and around? Then we felt Sagar as a group definitely has hospital as one thing, which we should leverage. So that is where we started focusing more on health tech. And thanks to the accelerator program, which we did last year, supported by DST, it was an eye-opener for us. Saying, the program again, entire execution was did with experts from outside, which brought in a new perspective of running an accelerator program by experts from the ecosystem. I think that Emerge, which we did acceleration program 2 years, was an eye-opener to focus more on health tech.
Absolutely. I think you took time and realizing that where the strength lies with the institution, and then play with the strength so that.
No, I think I would say probably we realized in a second year, which was what to do.
Absolutely, right? I think that's very much interesting as well. And coming to Ramji, I think your incubation is very recent one, and then you're into the deep tech space. Where do you see yourself? Like more or less everybody is offering a similar kind of infrastructure, facilities, and things like that. wherever you go, incubators, we got all the services kind of a thing. But where do your incubators into the molecular, cellular and molecular sectors? Like, what are the challenges like you guys really looking at and putting it across to sustain your models?
Yeah, Shiva, I think you rightly mentioned that we have so many center of excellences, so many facilities in the country. And CCMB being one of the sophisticated life science and molecular biology, organization, whatever the specific equipment and infrastructure that we have in the incubation center are fully functional, okay, dust free. That is very important when we compare with other incubator, where whether all equipments are really accessible to them whenever they require. That is one thing. So the challenges when you are asking, the facilities are there, government funding is there to set up incubator or to fund the startups or student innovators, whatever. But the mindsets is the problem, where we're trying to actually coach them, whoever is coming to us. But at some points, the tech minds are not the product minds, so they may not be thinking about the product market fit, so they actually love their technology. So I think the 3.5 years or 4 years of experience, what we are trying to actually do, having some specific tools to accelerate their path, actually how to make their path ready towards a business and all, and also hand holding with the right stakeholders, etc. So the challenge is about how to actually nurture them, how to pick those specific horses is a big challenge for the incubators like us. So that is what I can put it that way. So how we can see, I mean, after next 2 to 5 years, etc. I think we have to look very differently, as someone mentioned right now. First 5 years, I think Lakshmi mentioned, first 5 years is okay, funding is there, but what's next? So the balance between the OPEX and the income, biggest challenge. So we are trying to, currently to mention that, we are trying to operation the consultant mode as well. And we are trying to actually help other incubators and expanding our centers. At the same time, the CSR is coming into picture, and also industrial collaboration projects that we are doing at the center. So I think somehow we have to address those challenges by bringing all these kind of
Thanks for that input, Ramji. As we are running out of the time, I'll quickly go one round and taking 30 seconds from each of you, to seek what is one of the best learnings or maybe the best practices you wanted to share with the audience. So I'll go with Vipul first, and then others.
Okay. So if I have to talk about the one thing which might be we are doing very well, or might be it's also very important for us to look at, is basically building the right team. So if you look at, I think this is an industry, is more a skill driven industry, right? And whatever the kind of people we can bring on the table, those are the basically people can create or might be support the best kind of startup who will coming to you. So creating the culture around within the team, how we can actually create. So this is a very nascent industry where it's also required whoever is joining this kind of the organization, how we can actually provide them a very specific career path, because this is very small industry. And if we are able to provide them a career path, proper training, then there are good people, or there are a lot of people who want to explore that. One of the interesting experiment we have did last year, or we started 3 years back, actually, not a last year, is basically we started one program we call as the Enlist program. So what we do over there is basically we identify, we say, okay, anyone want to basically explore this new incubation, acceleration and investment industry, we hire you for a 2 year. This is a 2 year where you will be get every 3 months, there is a different exposure you will get. 3 months you have to work in a program design side, program implementation, investment, program support. And after 2 years, you are feel free to either continue. If we have a requirement, we'll absorb you. And if you don't have a requirement, you are feel free to join other organization, right? And this is the way we are trying to create our own, you can say, kind of skill set building part. And because if you look at the skill set which we require to support the startup, is basically, if you compare with all the venture funds and everything, it's super expensive. People are coming from the elite colleges. We can't afford as an incubator. So we need to build those people, those skill set in-house, and also build a culture which is an entrepreneurial culture where people want to join us, and then maybe they want to go out and start their own organization, right? So having those, and that's a very important
So what you're trying to say is like, put the right people in place and then give them opportunity and then train them. So rest will be taken care of as the way you put the strategy. So I'll go across to Vikram on the same question, like, one of the best challenges, lessons, or maybe the practices you want to like to share.
Yeah, I think hiring is a major problem for the incubation industry as a whole, because an incubator manager needs to have at least 3 or 4 different skill sets. It can't be just finance, it can't be just technology, it can't be just intellectual property. One needs to be a jack of many trades. It's hard to find such people. Also, because the operations and the industry itself is new, obviously it's hard to attract people from other industries who are in much better, more comfortable, stable positions, right? That seems to be a major problem, especially when you're hiring. When we were hiring in Shimoga or when we were hiring in Belgaum, this was a major problem that we faced.
Where the type 2 cities where we don't have any much of a people involving in that. So the point is taken as similar to what people are telling. Yeah, getting your right team is also equally important. But once you start moving away from Tier 1 cities, like the challenges will be, the hurdles will be much more, and then the availability of the people, resources will be much more. Thank you. Thanks for that input, Vikram. And I'll go across to Lakshmi, madam. Again, few things you share, like any specific pointers you wanted to share, like, yes, this is one of the, learnings we are done, and then, we're able to overcome that.
Sure. I think one thing what we've been doing last 2 years plus, have a real deep dive into the healthcare ecosystem, connecting to key stakeholders, of course, through our board. And what we've also been doing, consciously after one connect to another connect, we are leveraging. Now, for example, corporates, we are working with a lot of corporates, be it with respect to technology, we've signed up, not only just signing up MOU, involving them as a part of the jury, getting problem statements from them, helping them to be a part of a program itself. We are working very closely with IESA, MathWorks, Applied Materials, of course, TIE Bangalore. Now, again, another thing what we interestingly done this time is, thanks to the earlier association, we've been associated with Health in Years. Siemens has a program called Health in Years. Now, this time, both Siemens and Sukino again is another I would say, organization which deals with elderly, and healthcare, run by an ex-Microsoft. The founder is an ex-Microsoft and is a member of our advisory board. So he again defined specific problem which is of interest to him, where startups could probably get a GTM opportunity. So this time, I would say the incubation program, what we have launched very recently, applications are still open, is a probably testimony of what we have done last 2 years plus, where we say this is specific problem statements, these are specific GTM partners. We have launched a program with 7 co-investors, where we would also bring in an Nidhi Triple S fund. Of course, it's an experiment we are doing, but if it goes well, good, because there is a way forward for the startups, including the funding by co-investors, GTM by the corporates and the hospitals who are associated. I think this is, we are waiting to see the results. Hopefully it will end well. I think corporate connects is a big USP what we're trying to leverage.
So I mean to say that align the right partners and collaborators so that, you are able to accelerate your activities.
Yeah, one, aligning them. And I think earlier somebody said that, because incubator is all about excellence at the operational level.
Yes.
So your partners may be there, everybody may be there, but how your team executes. And I always believe that have a small, close-knit team, and Derby believes in a very, very flat organization structure. So what I know, the last person in the line also knows everything. I think that we constantly ensure.
Yeah. Thanks for the input, madam. Yeah. So likewise, Ramji, like, I know you're still, young in that operational things, but I can see that, some of the good practices earlier when we were discussing that, you would like to share 1 or 2 with that.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a academic organization support, one important thing I would like to tell all the private and government organizations here is that, the management should actually have some initiatives to support the tech translations. Okay, for example, CCMB itself actually started their own in-house EIR program by giving small fellowship for a 6 months period. So those scientists, along with the students who identified, so they will be working on the problem, and the incubation center, they will work for about 6 months or 9 months. Then they will be having a proper confidence, setting up their enterprises and also raising funds. Actually, this worked in the past 2.5 years. So I think, without expecting returns from the, investment, please actually work out. As yesterday, I think Deepanita ma'am, mentioned in the WhatsApp group that, early stage support, startup innovator support is very important. Please have the burden on your shoulders. And of course, you will get the returns a bit later, but at least what you are doing, I think that is very important from the academic sector. And secondly, to quickly mention that, about the challenges, of course, when you're talking about the overall challenges, quickly I'll mention the connects, life science sector, specifically I'm telling, but the serious investors, finding a serious investors or serious accelerators is a very difficult point. I think, our ecosystem, I think we are not that ready in at least Hyderabad. So I think if we can actually
not only that, I think
to other incubators also.
Yes, specific to your area is because of the gestation period before you find the result. So that's one of the very critical for deep tech and then the life science innovation, especially supporting early stage. Yes, somebody needs to bear the burden. Government is doing bit of it. Institution will take the bit of a burden. So some of the all of that I know that. So given a time, we would like to share a lot of our experiences across different challenges here. So with whatever we had little time, I understood that yes, having a right team at to operational level is very important, and having a confidence of your own institution, and as well as bringing that operational efficiency along with them, and also taking them confidence is very important, and also providing an opportunity for faculties along with what Prasad has mentioned, or maybe Chitkara institution is doing. Is I think also a great message, and keeping the focus and getting that alignment much earlier is equally important, so that you're not having much of a distractions or maybe diversion in your operation. So once again, I'd like to thank you all of you for your inputs and time to come and share here. So Vipul Patel from IIMA, Lakshmi Jagannathan from Devi Foundation, Ramji from CCMB, and then Vikram from IKP Eden. So thank you all, and then now I'll pass on the things to Balachandran.
Yeah, thank you, Shiv Shankar. It was a wonderful deliberation with four of your champions, Vipul, Ramji, Vikram, and Lakshmi. I think it has brought out quite a number of issues, challenges, and also how they're addressing many of those issues and challenges. So thanks for this interesting panel. But for time constraints, we would have loved to hear a little more. We'll reserve it for another day. Thank you.
Sure.
And so the flow of the events, when we look, we started with the states of Punjab and Maharashtra, and we have gone national with Hyderabad, Bangalore, and other places, Ahmedabad, with people coming in. So now it's time for us to go international. We have an international panel with two eminent personalities with us. One is an incubation veteran who had immense and deep knowledge and expertise in the incubation arena. Mr. Julian Webb, Managing Director of Creda Projects from Australia. And many of us in Indian incubation system knows him very well. He's a good friend of Indian incubation system. Not only Indian incubation system, whole of Asia Pacific region. I know he has done considerable work in Indonesia, Nepal, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, and also Saudi Arabia in the recent past. And he has been a consultant for the World Bank. And one of the commendable work which he has done is bringing out 11 trainer modules. He was part of the team, and which has led to training of trainers of business incubation. And I've been one of the beneficiaries, and personally had several pleasant interactions with him. And so it's a great pleasure, honor to have you on board, Mr. Julian. So welcome you on board. And you have about 7 to 8 minutes to, I know it's purely not fair on our part, but I know you can handle it well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bala. And thank you, Suresh, for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure seeing many familiar faces and getting a quick recap on the exciting things happening with the Indian incubation industry. I did put together a few slides. I'm not going to use them. I'll try and keep myself to 8 minutes and just talk about a few points. I've worked in a lot of countries, and I thought of what are the key issues, challenges, opportunities I'm seeing at the moment. And the first one, I don't quite know how to put it. I see lots of people looking for quick wins with short-term initiatives, and I question, what do they want? Do they want real results, long-term employment, investment, economic impact, or do they just want lots of startups? Do they want just ecosystem development? What's going on? At the same time, the language is changing. Anything's called an incubator these days. Whether it's an accelerator, a co-work space, everything's called incubation. But we sort of know that most startups fail, and that the real impact comes from growing companies over time. That isn't a short-term initiative. So one thing I see coming across this, and I think it's what some of the speakers have mentioned before, is the good incubators. I think of what's worked. The good incubators do everything. They work in ideation, they've got awareness programs, pre-acceleration programs, seed acceleration programs, pre-incubation programs, deep intensive incubation programs. They're in parks, they do growth acceleration, they do co-working, and they have scale. And they have multiple entry points. And I see that working. So in a sense, you can get confused. What am I doing? What am I doing? But the serious people realize you need lots of short-term things generating startups. Most of them fail, but that's purely an input to more intensive work with incubation that really turns these things that gets people through their first 2, 3, 4 years. That works. I think there's a real opportunity there. The language, it could be calling them a hub. I quite like a definition of hubs that says, unlike business incubators and accelerators, which typically work directly to assist individual firms to grow, innovation hubs act as a network platform blending diverse range of competencies. We don't know it all, but they do these. But the ones I'm thinking of in practice, they combine incubation, co-working, acceleration, clustering, networking, technology parks together, and they have scale. And so there's examples I could give. One is Cicada Innovations, Australia's leading deep tech incubator. It's self-sufficient, it's been going for decades, it's massive, does the whole lot. So I quite like that. And what goes with that is an understanding it takes time to get real results. If you're after serious results, again, I'm just looking at a slide that comes from work in Saudi Arabia over 10 years, where we built this institution where the results after 3 or 4 years weren't great, but after 10 years, it was having providing an economic return of 1 to 3 to the government. 425 companies, 3,200 jobs, direct jobs. With indirect jobs, tens of thousands, because they did the Middle East version of Uber. So it takes time. And when you start putting these things together, putting all these different elements together, you don't quite know what works. I evaluated another one, the Canberra Innovation Network, last year. They do all of these, and the most successful company hadn't gone through the incubator, hadn't gone through the accelerator, hadn't gone through the co-working space. When you talk to them, they said they couldn't have done it without this organization. This organization was the most important thing to their success, but they hadn't gone through any particular program. So you're sort of starting to change a community, an ecosystem. So I think the words we use, this incubator, was the neural network of the innovation ecosystem. So that's my first point, put a lot of things together. I think the other thing I've learned is this isn't just about programs, incubation programs, acceleration programs. It's developing lasting institutions. And the conversation I've just been listening to is many of the points I've got. Structures that operate like a business, mostly non-profit and autonomous. They actually get involved deliberately in developing an ecosystem. They've got good governance systems with good board members who are relevant. Management, the management team is key. They have to have the ability to manage. They're what I call enterprise facilitators, these really special people who are passionate about it, with varying diverse skills. And the whole issue of career paths is something you grapple with. I grapple with in lots of countries. You find the right people, they want a career path. That's probably one of the most hardest things to find, the right management and team. But when you've got them, they stick. This is a sticky industry. When you find the right people, and particularly if you're in a growing organization, which is where I've had the opportunity to grow, you find the right people grow with the organization and you build a career path as these incubator institutions get scale. Great linkages and partnerships. You need good policy, good government policy and funding. And I use DST, National Science and Technology Entrepreneurship Development Board, as a role model around the world. So I think in India, you do have good policy. At least in DST, you've got good policy. It's a model for elsewhere in the world. But with all of that, you do need good programs. You need a good incubation program, a good acceleration program, but that's not the key. The key is the people and the institution you build around it and how you grow it over time. Noting impact takes years to achieve. So next one, incremental improvement. You don't get it right initially. And I remember policy is not right initially either. I remember talking to Mr. Mittal years ago about how DST didn't get the policy right initially. No incubator gets it right straight away. It takes time to improve incrementally. And good incubators keep getting better every year. They don't stay static. They're always improving. And how are they doing it? They're doing it by listening to each other. You know, what I'm looking at says peer learning. You know, I've just been listening to peer learning, how you're learning from each other. There are some tools you can use. My company, we do assessments. We've been doing this in many countries against international best practices, not as to wield a stick, but to help people improve. And I've seen that work. If you do that over 3, 4, 5 years with incubators, you're assessing them every year, looking at best practices, which are lead indicators for performance, which are lag indicators, and you start making improvement recommendations. That's a useful process to go through. I'm not saying it should be my company, but I think it's useful to have an external body come in at times to look at helping you to improve. We all need help improving. None of us know it all. We're all learning. Financial sustainability, it's a challenge, but it can be done. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors around this. From what I see, no incubators or accelerators, almost, 99%, none are financially sustainable without public or corporate support of one form or another. It's cash or in kind. The talk of private incubators, private accelerators, booming, becoming successful, apart from Y Combinator and Techstars, see what's happened to others 3, 4, 5 years down the track. The vast majority, and there are plenty of self-sustainable incubators in these organizations, or partially self-sustainable ones. They rely on public funding for their establishment typically, and often rely on rental business models at their core in free buildings. Most have a mixed business model, making revenue from a range of different sources, and have sponsorship, government funding, training, and they're sharing success with clients. It might be different in India, but from what I've seen, most are taking equity in companies. I wished 10 years ago this would work and be a regular, reliable source of revenue for deep tech incubators, but I think what Sakota Innovations do in Sydney is a good model. They have scale. They cover all their day-to-day costs through renting space, through co-working, those sort of things. They take equity in every single company. That equity helps incentivize staff and give them some upside. But it's not reliable enough to cover your day-to-day cash flows. You want to try and cover day-to-day cash flows with a more boring, robust model. And co-working goes pretty well with incubation. You put this with parks, you've got a great model there. So it can be done, but it's not easy. And you always need good government funders behind you to help give you a bit of a stick for that. And again, DST's model is a pretty good one. The final thing I've been coming across recently is, I don't know if anyone's heard of Veblennian entrepreneurship. This is a risk to this industry, and it's really, entrepreneurship is popular across the globe these days, and you find people who love being the startup scene. And so to explain a Veblennian entrepreneur, I think I was in Nepal last year or two years ago when I could travel. I met this guy, a serial entrepreneur, supposedly. He'd had 4 startups. He was mentoring other startups. And when you start talking to him, he hadn't sold a thing to anyone. None of his startups had actually operated in the marketplace. He'd gone through competitions, pivoted, kept on pivoting, raised some investor money, blamed the investor, other things go wrong, kept on pivoting. he was very good at pivoting, very good at pitching, very good at winning competitions, but not actually doing anything. There's more and more. There's a lovely paper produced by, if you do a Google search and come across it, you'll find a paper called Towards an Entrepreneurial Economy, the entrepreneurship industry and the rise of the Viblanian entrepreneur. These are a great market for co-working. These people, and particularly Saudi Arabia is full of them, but even in poor countries like Nepal, there's plenty of these people. They like hanging out with other entrepreneurs. They like quick wins. They like, but they don't actually have the staying power to do much. They're a good market for the entrepreneurship industry privately, good market for co-working, nothing wrong with them, but other than they can suck energy and resources away from more serious things. In Saudi Arabia, the best incubators avoid this by coming in a bit later. Their key entry criteria for the deep support from incubation and for funding support is you've got to have revenue first of all. So you can put filters in for some of these people. And the one that's worked with the two of the leading ones in Saudi Arabia is you've got to have revenue first of all. Go and prove it. Revenue or very tangible traction in the marketplace before we will look at you. And that's sort of forcing people to get past this stage of pivoting endlessly with ideas. Do you like hanging out with other entrepreneurs? That's all I was going to say. I've gone more than 8 minutes. I'm sorry.
So thank you, Mr. Julian, for a very, very short but a powerful micro views, short-term, long-term impacts, models, patterns. I think as usual, you have covered a wider ground. We would like to have another sessions, in the near future to have a detailed discussion with you. So thanks for joining, and I would request, in case if you have time, you can stay back. So in case of some discussions at the end, it will be great. So thank you. I will stay.
I'll stay. So I'm enjoying listening.
Yeah. And we move on to the next speaker, Ms. Russell Pili, who heads the incubation program in Philippines. Again, I and Suresh had the fortune of getting hosted by their organization in Philippines in 2019, and we spent 2 weeks. And what I understood is she has been passionately driving the incubation movement in Philippines, and it has grown to 60 incubators now. And I could see her footprints and touches everywhere. She's a charismatic leader, and also she actively takes part in grooming the managers in her territory. And so welcome you on board, Ms. Russell, and I'll be sharing your screen, presentation. You may tell me when I to move. Welcome on board.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bala. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, so thank you for having me here. So I actually enjoyed listening also to all the lessons and experiences that was shared earlier. And yeah, the long-term impact that Dr. Julian Webb actually described earlier was more real to us. I'm from government, and we year by year we try to defend our budget for support to incubators and startups. And as we know that, the impact and any revenues will not show up anytime next year. It's gonna be for the long term. So it's really difficult for us to justify that the set of startups that we have right now will have a full economic impact for the next 10 years. So that's where I'm coming from. Maybe probably different from what the earlier experiences are. But let me just show you what we did in our experience. I'm not going to recount our entire history here, but when we started in 2009, we only had a handful of startups in the Philippines. We're very, very late in the game, as you may say. And we only have a handful of incubators then, and they are mostly run and owned by the private sector. So the Department of Science and Technology, where I belong, launched this long-term priority of establishing technology business incubators. And our initiative actually made a fast turn only in the last 4 years because, well, I can probably attribute it to 4 factors that I would like to share with you next. So next slide, Dr. Bala, please. Thank you. So first challenge that we had is an enabling policy. So 10 years ago, it's difficult for the Philippine government to support startups and even establish incubators. We cannot really provide government funds at that time. But what we did realize that for our startup community to flourish, government should come in. Government should have an active role. Lessons from Singapore, Israel have shown us that if we want to be competitive in this space, then we have to do something. So next slide, please. It was actually in 2018 that the three big ministries or departments in the Philippines joined hand in hand to harmonize and provide complementary programs to help our startups survive. The Department of Trade, us in the Department of Science and Technology, and the Department of Information and Communications Technology. It's actually a gargantuan effort, especially on my part, to have these three department secretaries to join hand in hand in just one picture to to actually agree on one program. So three department secretaries, and it also paved the way for us to lobby to Congress and to Senate to extend support to startups to provide incentives and benefits. So in 2019, we were able to successfully help pass a Republic Act, and that is the Innovative Startup Act of the Philippines then, that allowed us to channel government funds now to implement our startup programs. So next slide, please. So I'm trying to be fast as I could. So yeah, but funds are actually just secondary to our problems. Our problem really are people. We started with 5 incubators. We established them in universities, hoping that we can entice and support the younger generation to build their own companies. But our problem really is to find people that can actually entice the younger generation to actually run technology business incubators, provide mentorship, and rally partners to our cause. There's really very, very few people that we can find, especially from academia, that can actually make incubators work. Next slide, please. And I've heard this from the discussions earlier too. So what we did is that we launched a program to find the right people, to train the right people, prepare them to become TBI managers for at least for the first 40 incubators that we are planning to launch. So we introduced the HERIT program. So HERIT stands for Higher Education Institution Readiness for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. It's a screening, a training, and preparatory program for our TBI managers that are mandated to lead, to man the operations, and run the next 40 or more incubators that the DOST will fund for the next 5 to 6 years. This is where we met Suresh and Dr. Bala in our efforts to find organizations and people that can help train our TBI managers. It's an entire year of training. And if they pass the standards, these TBI managers will be given the funds to run their own incubators. So we also assist the recipient universities. We have to ensure that their laboratories, the ecosystem of services and people that surrounds the incubator are also ready for the responsibility, and also integrating a technopreneurship course in each of the curriculum of their science and engineering courses. Next slide, please. So for from five to from 5 incubators, after 3 years, we were able to establish 48 fully manned business incubators. So we were able to grow our base of 100 startups from our few incubators. Then now, after 3 years, we have more than 600 startups in our roster. Some of them actually branched out to having offices in other countries as well. I know that this is still not much compared to the 10,000 startups that India has targeted for the next few years, but I think that with the program that we have, we'll eventually get there. So next slide, please. After making sure that we have increased the number of our incubators, we also provided them the mandate to secure partnerships and collaborative projects with incubators in other countries that can help them. So it's not enough to run their incubator. They have to have partners that can also help them, that can also teach them how it is run. So we launched a program in 2019 called TBI 4.0, where we instructed all our incubators to secure a partner institution, whether it's a private incubator or accelerator, to help them in developing, next slide please, sorry. Yeah, to help them in developing their incubation programs. So co-development, co-incubation arrangements with their partner TBIs, and basically just learn or benchmark on what other incubators are doing better than what we do here in our country. And yeah, just for the sole objective of improving our programs. So next slide, please. Yeah, okay, so we started with 11 partners, international partners in 2019. That's our first year of implementation. Now we have more than 25 international partners in our TBI network after only a year. So next slide, please. So I think this is one of the things that us in this government service is more critical, and it's really more important to my function, because as I've said, year after year we have to defend our support. We have to make Congress believe that startups can amount to something even in the short term. So next slide, please. So what we do is we help our TBIs, our incubators perform well as much as we could. So we do this. I think Dr. Julian Webb also mentions an assessment. We also do this to our TBIs. And what we do is we initially set a framework for measuring their performance, the quality of services that they provide, their capability, through different sets of pillars or criteria, whether it's facility, raising awareness, building their ecosystems, providing services, networking, exposure, and obtaining funding. We assess each of the incubator, whether they are at the basic or the foundation stage, whether they are growing into an accelerating stage or an established stage, and the more advanced aspirational stage. So we were able to define each of that. And what is more important in using this assessment is that year after year, when we do the assessment, we look also for opportunities and this very specific interventions that we can do to our incubators. And the sets of problems, as I've heard earlier also, the sets of problems also differs at the ground and differs among incubators, different also with the priority programs or the team. So we have to look at the problems of each of the incubators individually. So that's what we provide as our assistance to the TBIs, not only in terms of training and establishing the incubators. So next slide, please. When it comes to reporting, what our incubators have accomplished, reporting to Congress, securing the fund for the next 5 years, we use this set of metrics. So we report the numbers, the companies that graduated as a full-blown company from the incubator, the number of jobs or heads that have increased over time, the private investments raised by our startups through the help of the TDIs, the revenues of the startups housed at our incubators. So we use these sets of metrics to compare performance of our incubators and also use this as a decision for providing interventions and support. This is an accumulated metric since 2018 because that's the time that we actually counted each of the heads and each of the investments raised by our startups. So next slide, please. I think this is my last slide, but I just want to show our dashboard on our investments in our TBIs. This is in terms of, well, Philippine pesos. So the blue portion in the graph are the funding we provided for our incubators. Those are meant to establish the facility, provide startup grants, train the people, capacity building, also even hosting events and sending people abroad for competitions and conferences. The gray portion there shows the revenues of the startups housed in our TBIs, and the orange portion represents private investments raised by our startups. Our funding support follows a 3-year cycle, but as you see from the graph, revenues and investments started coming in only in 2018 and have increased actually after a year of intervention. Of course, we have the pandemic year last year, but this year, our startups and incubators are slowly picking up. With a set of metrics and a dashboard like this, we're able to decide whether, for example, it's time to open again our program to new incubators, like what we will be doing this year. And when we saw that there was a marked decrease in investments and revenues due to the pandemic, so we opened our startup grants this year so that we can help startups recover from the effects of the pandemic. So next slide, please. Oh yeah, so that was my last slide. So, with all the challenges that I've heard earlier from the incubator managers, we do it resonates actually with all our TBI managers as well. We do have problems in terms of sustaining operations. The numbers are very good because they are aggregated and they are cumulative. But we also look at the individual performance, and that's where we think that we do have the same set of problems. We do have to think of different interventions so that we can make our incubators more effective and more sustainable. So thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity to share.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Res. It was an interesting presentation, and you've given a detailed account of what's happening in Philippines. Interestingly, you've given 4 P's, like Philip Kotler in marketing, you have given it in incubation. So policy, promotion, and partnerships, performance metrics. So it's a good way to remember. So thank you for being with us, and I would still request you, in case time permits, you can stay on board. And so with this, Suresh, are you back? Would you like to take over?
Yeah, I'm here only. Just I want to thank Julian and Russell, right, on my behalf for joining us, joining the panel with us. And thank you, Julian. I look forward to see you in India soon. Right, it is almost 4 or 5 years that we have not met, our incubation community has not met. And let's see how the association can work together and have you again in our network. Thank you. Russell.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah. Over to you, Bala.
Yeah. Thanks again, and we move on to the next panel, which is with the government as stakeholders, the perspectives from different government agencies. We have again a very eminent panel with us, and we have Dr. Anita Gupta, who has been a veteran bureaucrat and who knows almost all the incubators in the country. And she has also put in several personal efforts in steering this community and also promoting deep tech incubators and also new model of distributed network of incubation. We will have some interesting insights from her, and we also will have Dr. Manish Divan, who heads the BioNest program and head from BIRAC, and under his leadership, the BioNest incubation also has grown in strength, more than 60 as on today, I suppose. And we also have Dr. J.K. Arora, Executive Director, Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, Government of Punjab, as another stakeholder. So welcome all the 3 panelists. But to steer the discussion, I would request Mr. Praveen Rane, Joint Director, BCCI, not the cricket one.
Bala, we also have Sijo Varghese, MSME.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry I missed him. Mr. Sijo, welcome you too, and welcome you on board. And To steer the discussion, I would request Mr. Praveen Rani, Joint Director of BCCI, not the cricket one. This is Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to moderate this session. So over to you, Mr. Praveen.
Good afternoon to everybody. I think that's a wonderful, introduction, Mr. Balachandran. I'm glad to, be here, just to interact with you all guys. And you have been quite a stalwarts into your own fields. And I represent Bombay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is one of the oldest chamber in the country. And we represent the interest of the corporate as well as, with the other stakeholders in the ecosystem. So, I won't be asking anything, which is more technical, because I have seen that all the organizations, I just went through the background of each of your institutions, are your, nationally, internationally reputed organizations. Your work and your achievements are well known. We would like to take some lessons from, for every one of you in terms of making the entire entrepreneurship and the startup sector to a next level. So first thing which came to my mind is that a lot of things have been explored when it comes for entrepreneurship development, both from the government sector as well as from the private sector. While you have been leading your own organizations in the area of entrepreneurship, which aspects do you find as the most neglected and which could have actually sped up the entrepreneurship horizon, in India in last few years? So I think the answer could be, or each one of you can try and give your own perspective. So I'm trying to figure out which are those areas which are most neglected, even from the policy point of view, or from the managerial point of view, which I think all the incubators and the allied institutions should look into. Dr. Gupta, would you like to start?
Yeah, so thank you, the entire team of organizers, GIZ, as well as the ISBA, for hosting this wonderful sessions and deliberations. I could hear some of these which went from the Maharashtra, touching upon Maharashtra and Punjab, and then taking out the other regions of the country. International perspective, both shared by Julian Webb as well as the Philippines one. And let us now deliberate in depth some of the salient features which our incubation ecosystem may be lacking. So it is paramount to really having undergone and having experience of more than 2 decades in this whole domain. It's high time we clearly dissect the anatomy of what does a good incubator look like. And then when we talk about it, I clearly which emerges and my mind are the 5 S's. First is the kind of systems which incubator has built upon. So it has to be system led. Incubation has, as a being an institutional program, has to be clearly led by the kind of systems. It has been the selection policy, exit policy, for intake of startups. So I give a lot of weightage to the kind of systems, and I must appreciate the way our earlier breed of incubators, Sign IT Bombay, has come out with a very strong legacy of good systems in place. And that's how whenever anyone asks me whom to reach out, I clearly says go to Sign, and the way they have made all these systems and processes online, one can really go and have a clear first-hand understanding of the systems in place. So that is clearly because although in terms of success, I give a lot of weightage to the kind of team which is driving the whole incubation at any place. So that makes or breaks an any incubator, the kind of dynamism, the kind of competency. So after systems, I would attribute skills which the core management team has, and it has to be earlier. See what we have learned over the years when we had rolled out this program. It was earlier was headed by a senior professor deputed by the institution, and there was a clear mismatch in the kind of the way we wanted incubators to be run, and that's how professional team has to be put in place. And over the years, the way we have changed in terms of our insistence on a very competent management team, a CEO. Now, because of governance, what we have laid out, it has to be essentially a not-for-profit entity. Nowadays, professionally run incubators have Section 8 company in place. So it's the kind of professionalism in governance has been advocated the way we insisted on having a Section 8 company. It was a tough uphill task to convince typically the university-run incubators to have why it makes a great sense to have these kind of mechanisms. But over the years, I'm happy to share that we have been able to convince, and now is the time we could see the institutions-led incubators are reaping the rich benefits, the kind of successes they have been churning out day in and day out. All those who are part of the ISBA WhatsApp group. And today we celebrate, like yesterday, in the incubation community, the first success in terms of hitting the unicorn club happened to be a sign incubated company, Gupshup messaging API platform. So we need to first system, second is skills. Third, I will attribute to the kind of scale which an incubator operates. So when we started off first decade, everyone was actually hovering around 5 to 10 startups under incubation. This will never lead to the next S is the sustainability. So you have to figure out like what is the quantum of startups which an incubator should support in terms of, so when physical incubation being a limitation, thanks to COVID now, everyone is now working on a hybrid model. So a good mix of physical as well as virtual. So that has been a policy shift from our side also. We are revisiting all the guidelines and enabling incubators to also reach out to and tap potential virtual incubators for all the kind of programs which we are supporting under the banner of Nidhi. So Nidhi, so in terms of our incubation offerings, if we see there has been 3-4 distinct versions where we really change the complexion of our offerings depending upon what market needs were. So what we will expect incubators also to be very dynamic and be responsive to the market needs. So another thing in terms of when we the whole customer piece in the incubation is startup. So how do you really manage the startup expectations once they are part of your incubation network? That has to be really thought of, because they don't nowadays they don't come for only the space. So space being a now virtual space is not a they are coming for some sort of a financing options or funding, which is, but more than that is the mentoring kind of the mentor pool you have, or the kind quality mentors if you engage with, that's a critical value add service. So value add service as a part of offerings of an incubator also becomes a critical piece of importance and a significant to really carve out a niche in the incubation numbers, which is constantly rising. DPIT says now we combined numbers which stands today, inclusive of all incubators and accelerators, be it the public or private domain, is in excess of 700. So you are one among the 700. How do you really position yourself? So a strategic position of your incubator now becomes very important in the hybrid domain. Startup who can reach out to any amongst you, any among the 700 ones. So what is your value added offerings for any startup? Is your niche happens to be any industry focus, niche happens to be an curation to investment readiness, your key prominent focus area happens to be providing market access. So what is that piece or incubator has to really figure out? And then nothing better than success breeds success. So you have to churn out successes. Failures also could be will be definitely a part and parcel of your startup portfolio. But like that has to be also documented, what failures, what went wrong as a part of, because that will be a part of your even your mentorship program as well. So that will be so documenting failures, documenting success, and learning from failures. So that has to be what I as you raise, the missing challenge and piece is the documentation and statistics, data points analysis is the, as of now, a burning issue which we are discussing, because we find not all incubators are on the same page as far as documentation and data points are concerned. And being apart from DST, now every policy interventions has to be driven by evidence. So we have to have a strong evidences in place. So I will urge upon all incubators to have a strong, robust data capturing and analysis system in place, be it MIS or whatever. So that has to be a critical piece. And
Dr. Gupta, I think that is a wonderful input.
So I'll stop here and let others share their.
I think that gave rise to, although we have listed a few more questions, your conversation gave rise to two more questions. One is that do you think that the existing government policy framework is itself robust enough, to take up or take care of the dynamic changes which are happening in the startup market itself? So whether various kind of policy changes with respect to the direction of investment, or definition of SMEs, or the market upheavals, all those kind of stuff. Do you think that existing policy framework?
It is happening in a relatively a good pace, not the same pace which startups or incubators would have loved to have. But like Startup India is now driven by this, as a national program is driven by DPIIT, and I happen to sit on the all top national committees, and the way I see the energy, the dynamism, and the frequency of meetings wherever any startup related issue comes, and so that frequency has really gone up. And with regards to investment, apart from what was fund of funds or another startup, state governments who have joined hands in now really changing the entire landscape for making it bigger and better in multiple ways. Now DPIIT has also rolled out a startup fund scheme, so that will also give boost to the critical challenge which startup face, and this will cover up startups from the incubators as well as from the non-incubated area as well. And entire scheme, incubators will be a lead implementing arms as an extended arm. So incubators have a bigger chunk of role now, as far as the not only tapping the good startups, but also making this scheme a success from the day one. So
it is, I think it is good to know that Startup India is having enough stakeholder interactions, so that the policy makers and even the implementers keep themselves updated. So Dr. Diwan, I have a question for you. That do you which kind of platforms do you see as most effective platforms to communicate with the budding entrepreneurs? Because the quality of input is equally important if you are looking at the output to be excellent through any incubators. So what are the platforms that you see are the most effective platforms to attract quality entrepreneurs onto any incubator?
So thank you, Praveen, and good morning, good afternoon to all my fellow panel members. There can be many ways to interact with the potential entrepreneur to attract to a particular incubator. As we just heard, there are now a network of incubators all across the country. So from an entrepreneur's point of view, if he or she has decided that he or she will actually enter into the path of entrepreneurship, so the decision for him or her is also challenging. Now, what would be the basis of choosing a particular incubator? One, the incubation center must provide beyond the basics. The basics could be the physical infrastructure, facilities, access to instrumentations, etc., which are tangible aspects, like an ambience where the person can sit, and a vibrant place where other similar entrepreneurs or startups are there. Now, as we say that a particular startup is actually driven by a founder or co-founder's passion, right? An incubator is also equally driven by the commitment of the people who are driving it, the incubation CEO and the staff, and the senior management who is supporting that particular incubator. So that provides an impetus, a flexibility for the incubator to grow, to reach out to and grow leaps and bounds. That is seen by the entrepreneur. Now, once that flexibility and then passion and full-time commitment is there from the incubator lead, they will do everything possible to make for a customized solution to a startup and entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs will come with all different kinds of working problems. So each one would require a customized handholding, finding and identifying a mentor, reaching out to a regulatory framework guidance, for example, access to go-to-market strategy. So that is driven through that particular incubator lead. So that's first and foremost. And how do an entrepreneur comes to know that this particular incubator is doing all what could be possibly he or she would ask is the website is one particular aspect where the first interaction can happen. The website should be explicit, and it should dole out all the statistics, assessments, and the kind of provisions available. Social media is, I think, has a larger penetration and reach to the younger people. Thirdly, I think, which is most critical to me, is after an incubation passes through the early couple of years stage when the incubator is establishing, the success of incubator is actually translated through the success of their startups. So the startups become their brand ambassadors. If you have startups which are successful, incubator will start thriving. So word spread out through the user incubated startups or the peer startups of that incubator. They become the spokesperson and spread the good word about the startup. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Divan. Something for Dr. Arora. Where we see that there are a lot of policy improvements happening, and government has been quite active, to the needs of startups. Where do you see that? Any specific provisions did you see to attract socially weaker sections or even female entrepreneurs, over and beyond the policy, where the private sector has played some good role, and that has also been complemented by the government agencies? Any success stories, ma'am, that you can please share?
Interesting. The whole experience is very interesting. Especially Praveen, you are making it very mystical. I didn't know that you will be asking. You were starting from policy and the missing piece, and suddenly you've thrown a question which is kind of very close to my heart. So very happy to answer you with a very concrete example here. So we, from the State Council, Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, as you would be knowing, it's a technical arm of State's Department of Science and Technology, as well as state level node of Government of India. So we work at multiple levels now. To what you asked, we have this Rural Innovation and Application Center. Dr. Manish Diwan is here. It's in a big way funded by DBT and DST. Dr. Anita is here, has also supported it through serial interventions. So you talked of how we brought in, besides public support, how did we support the weaker section by bringing private sector on board. So again, a very, very grassroots level example that while setting this rural innovation application center, we brought on board a local cooperative society of that area, which also brought in the investment, and it was again an interesting example. Started with a few sheds taken on lease from state's electricity board, which were in dilapidated condition. And today it has, within a span of say 8-9 years, it has reached a level, and this society that I am mentioning were fresh pass outs, the biotechnology postgraduate boys, two of them who also brought along others in that rural setting. And today they have a turnover of 10 crore. And now we are taking it further and are planning to set up a rural milieu accelerator there. It's in Shivalik foothill area of Punjab. And government of Punjab as such has very recently set up a 150 crore fund with a private sector investment, 90% coming from private sector. And similarly for social innovations, grassroots innovations, helping the rural population there, and especially women. This society itself is now, which, as I said, was, coming from very humble beginnings, has reached to a level now wherein it is supplying now products to all the Apollo pharmacies in India. There are about 2,000 plus, and generating 2 to 3 lakh man-days employment, especially for rural women, every year. So it's all now set, to support grassroots innovations to turn into enterprises. So this is a very, very first-hand experience. Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Arora. I hope I haven't created a lot of disturbance in this panel discussion. See, what I'm trying to see is that as you're aware that your organizations are well reputed and a lot of your performance indicators are already well demonstrated. So I was rather trying to see that how other people can learn from some of your experiences. So the next question would be for Mr. Varghese. Trying to figure out that, in terms of infrastructure, whether it is the physical infrastructure or with respect to digital infrastructure, various incubators are competing against each other, and trying to excel. In terms of the entrepreneurship spirit, because as you've seen in the case of, this COVID time and lockdown, a lot of SMEs and startups have, suffered badly. So when it comes for entrepreneurship spirit, I think India has a long way to go, and I would like to ask some of your experiences where you have seen that any specific incubators have done some specific experiments, to rather increase this entrepreneurship spirit amongst their cohorts. Any success stories that you would like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Praveen. And also thank you to the entire team of GIZ and ISBA for having me over here. Yeah, interestingly, Praveen, we as the Innovation Society, being the state's nodal agency for startups and the innovation ecosystem in the state, we have gone through a number of programs specifically, supporting startups. One being the incubation program, where we are almost supporting 17 incubation centers across the state. In that, if you ask me specifically about how it has been as a journey or any specific, scenario or a use case where there has been tremendous impact given to entrepreneurship, I would say to start with, the entire focus of the Innovation Society was, how do you create these local hubs for innovation and entrepreneurship, and just not fix our focus on tier 1 or metropolitan cities. And that's the reason the incubation program which we have started is very much focused on tier 2, tier 3 cities, where we have incubation centers right from an Akola to a Nanded to a Mumbai city. And the experience what we are getting in those universities is exceptionally good. I mean, what we wanted is something which is that local people who don't have access to, the right set of infrastructure and IT support is something which has to be given by the government. And that is why we have a lot of incubation centers set out in tier 2, tier 3 cities. Couple of examples I can say, we have some incubation support centers. I think Magic is also here, who have been doing exceptional work all throughout the lockdown phase to support the, encouraging to support the local entrepreneurs. And I would say one of them being RIT Sangli, one of very good incubation centers, who has been from day one of the incubation of the lockdown, trying to understand local problems and giving out solutions, right from sanitizing solutions and solutions which are related to supporting supporting the local people out there, the government employees, the healthcare workers, and things like that. And apart from that, one of the best examples I would like to give is we have an incubation center at Loner, who has in fact developed an entire testing facility for COVID lab. So the institute there, along with few aspiring entrepreneurs, have set up a testing lab, which is actually accepted by the government of India. And now because they didn't, the local area didn't have a testing facility and had to rely on a city close by, Lunere had developed a testing facility at their incubation center itself. I would say that is one of the biggest successes which we, as in the incubation center, did during the pandemic to support and encourage entrepreneurs.
Thanks,
and solving local problems.
Yeah, I think it's only through experience we mold and shape up the attitude and the approach of the entrepreneurs. To Dr.
Praveen,
Devan,
I would like to interject
yes,
and also share and compliment, especially the Pune group. So I was part of the WhatsApp group of Pune, and then how really they tackled this COVID situation, and Pune being an intellectual and startup hub as well, how cutting across academic institutions, government, industry, all joining hands together to come out with solutions, testing them and figuring out the local supply chain during lockdowns and helping each other. And that was only possible through the power of collaboration. So our COVID has really taught us the way in a collaborative manner, we could really tackle some of the most challenging situations either by pivoting, because startups, I agree, many could figure out and pivoted. We had the biggest example of Pune-based startup, Nokar Robotics, who was in the solar-based robotic-based solar panel cleaning, quickly in a rapid response switched over to indigenous ICU-grade ventilators, and now it's a success story out in the form of a case study, ventilator project. IIT Kanpur Alumni Network wholeheartedly supported them. So we have to really catch stories that challenging times really give rise to new set of opportunities. Only we have to figure out right set of people, right mentors, and everyone has to work in unison to realize the product to market journey, which we could see in a rapid action mode. Otherwise, it would have taken 2-3 years to see the light of the day. Could see in a span of say 6-7 months. So this has been a huge learning for entire startup. Even I must compliment the whole team of ISBA as well as incubator network, because they could realize their combined potential. And through our Kavach, which we also rolled out as a response to tackle and figure out startup solutions and support them for market readiness. So this has all happened when we were unprepared, situations were so uncertain, and there are some success stories. This will go a long way to really tackle futuristic challenges, and this has built a lot of confidence in the whole incubation as well as the startup community, and also in the government sector as well.
Sure, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank
I have something to ask Dr. Devan. In terms of when it comes for business expansion for most of the startups who have been sustained and who have been able to do better domestically, the next level that people look out for is the overseas partners or even the trading opportunities. So Dr. Diwan, do you see that the existing ecosystem in India has tried enough avenues for it? And if the avenues are good enough, can you just illustrate one or two good avenues which I think startups should look at for getting overseas partners for investments or even for trading?
So I think the fundamental to reach out and scale to the global market is it starts from the beginning itself. When you are developing a product, we must develop it with an eye that it is solving today's problem, but it will have a longevity of at least 5 to 10 years down the line. If it is a technology-led innovation, the compliances, the quality, and the value proposition would also encompass and create a value proposition which is better than the existing solutions. So if it has that competitive merit, uh, then you would find many such examples which have been doing fairly well. Uh, Nowadays, because of the communication and word becoming flat, it's a global market. So many of the startups have been able to tap markets outside India. There are global competitions, startup competitions, just like India, for example. India has like Honorable Prime Minister announced in 2016 the startup policy, right, an initiative. So it became a national mission. But if you look around, most countries now have a major startup ecosystem in place, and there are common competitions, exhibitions which take place, which are the breeding grounds to identify the leads, as well as identify where investors are looking at for those leads. Industries are also looking at those strategic alignments. So these international competitions platforms, the startups who are participating and competing, they've been able to leverage that advantage. Besides this, from the government side, since we get into G2G engagements with other countries and foreign missions which are in India, we get approached, and there's a general feeling that India has the talent pool and which is able to address unmet needs in with offering affordable and accessible solutions. So that's one of our USPs, and the entire world is actually looking at India as an innovation hub, just because the size and the talent pool that India possesses and offers. So there is already a soft corner, let me put it this way, or a consciousness that from India we can at least get this much. The COVID situation, where we have seen the vaccine diplomacy at national level, 180 countries are aligned with India in this context. We have demonstrated that we have capacities to provide and support through biomanufacturing, best in class products discovered, developed outside, but we can support the productions. We have also demonstrated through first in class vaccines discovered, developed in India, that is being made available not only in India but outside India. Diagnostic kits, for example, 100% indigenized, getting exported. Likewise PPE kits, etc., etc. So this is a large scale recognition of India as innovation hub in the eyes of the world. Best time to actually, other startups who haven't actually taken that ride to go global, this is the best time to reach out. And
Agreed. I think nothing succeeds like success. So, it's only through your demonstration. And I think the various government agencies, the trade missions, and I have also seen a lot of trade bodies, looking into the area where they can offer some kind of a hand-holding support. Say, for example, even Bombay Chamber is running some program with the help of Asian Development Bank funding, where we are specifically helping the Indian startups and SMEs to grow in the sub-Mekong region like Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So I can see that multiple kind of international projects are also there, which are specifically focused on startups to explore overseas partners. Now, since we have got only 5 minutes in hand, I would like to ask one question to every one of you, which you can respond maybe in 1 minute's time. And since most of you represent the government agencies, the question would be with respect to the private sector. What is that single most thing that you see that private sector can do more effectively, or which they have not done in the past, but which can make a big difference to the startup ecosystem in India? So maybe starting with Dr. Arora.
In fact, Praveen, when we were talking to all the incubators here, this was one, as you used earlier the word, what is the missing piece? So this was one of the missing piece that came out. Everyone almost unanimously articulated that corporate startup connect is missing. Besides, of course, the overall synergy in the entire ecosystem.
Yeah. So what do you expect? What do you expect from the corporate?
So I'll share with you again, with the specific example, so that the message becomes very simple and actually reaches. So in Punjab's context, we've launched Mission Innovate Punjab, and here we were having a meet wherein the industry was also there. So I started with one city, for example, Mohali. So I asked Mohali Industry Association that what is it, if we talk of this city itself, how can the private sector help startups, So we zeroed down on, say there are about 50 tech intensive companies in Mohali. So let's start with a meet with them, and we have the incubators on the same page. We bring them along on the same platform, and then they articulate that this is actually there is synergy is totally missing at the moment. Industry doesn't know that what incubators can deliver. They do not know what are startups working on. For example, you heard two champions from Punjab in the morning, Mr. J.K. Sharma and Sameer. Mr. Sharma's incubatees are working on some of the grand challenges, which they identified by, say, talking to army. Sameer's incubatees are working on the grand challenges, which they found out by talking to district administrations. So the industry doesn't know that in startups they could have some subsidiaries, who could be working on the challenges which the industry, the corporates have. They can pass on some of their minor problems to startups to work upon. So once that knowledge percolates, I think, for example, again giving you the example, Mohali Industry Association was very excited to contribute. I think this is how we could.
I think to conclude, I think you were speaking about knowledge transfer and regular interactions between the startup with the private sector is something that will boost the sector itself. Yeah, Dr. Diwan, you please.
So I think industry can actually look at these startup ecosystem as their in a distant R&D center, where the things de-risking of innovation has already happened. There are POCs in place, and leads are there. So my advice to industry, or expectation from the industry, is that industry can come forward and cherry pick those which fit well in their product portfolio, and strategically align with their existing logistics, vendor base, and penetration ecosystem, so that there is a win-win for both startups as well as incubators and industry. Thank you.
I still recollect, Dr. Diwan, we also, as an industry body, keep getting requests whether we can find some, large corporations which will allow the startups to do their pilots. And I think that is one of the most crucial thing. People are not looking for money. People are looking for platform to evaluate the success of their ideas, and that is, I think, one of the important thing that we can look into.
So it is not the platform, Praveen, it's largely the experience of development which industry has, but a small startup, 2, 3, 4, 10 people startup does not have that bandwidth. So it is the marriage of innovation quotient from startup with the marriage of capacities that industry can offer.
Yes, please. Thank you. Dr. Gupta, your please.
So it is a very relevant and pertinent point because as also echoed by Dr. Arora, the missing piece in the entire innovation to market translation chain, corporates and industry really play a very larger role, and they can engage with our incubators and startups in multiple ways. So first is like they belong to certain domain. If the startup is from the domain, the real market insights could come from, so they could engage first as a mentor, and secondly, as you rightly pointed out, one of the missing piece in the entire offering in terms of testing validation is could be through pilots done with industry tie-up, and this could be in the form of paid pilot, but essentially startups are really looking for real market validation, so engagement through that. In terms of the way industry sees startup adding value to addressing to the some of the problem challenges in their industry vertical or in the process part or at the component level, and that's how we successfully ran India Innovation Growth Program with two industry champions, one with Lockheed Martin and Tata Trust. So Tata Trust through the social challenges, while Lockheed Martin through the high-end industrial engineering level challenges to open both at university level at to startup level. So throwing up problem statements also, and another very critical element as a part of policy which government of India has done is opening CSR for incubators, and that's how you pass on not only your market but investment per se also to incubation, which will percolate down to a startup as well. So CSR, that's already policies in place, but the way really incubators have leveraged this, or so we have to have the platforms where it's a good showcase model where incubators are shown their metal, their offerings, the kind of startups they are really churning out. So matchmaking. So when they really see the kind of stuff incubator is doing coming out, that's how they could engage. So it's a high time to leverage CSR funding for incubators for making this ecosystem much more vibrant.
Yeah. So, Dr. Gupta, what I see is that, the trade bodies as well as the professional groups can play a lot of, a big role rather in this entire stuff. Because, for example, when we look at CSR, there is always a pressure on, expenditure on multiple items. But it is also important that, the incubators are in a position to create, the CSR experts on the subject and to rather demonstrate what is the value of the startups in the entire ecosystem. Now requesting Mr. Varghese, for his view, please.
Yeah, thanks, Praveen. I just wanted to take from the point where Dr. Anita Gupta had just mentioned about the Pune use case, where the entire ecosystem had come together, and that's been an effort because the corporate, the startup, and the government worked together to bring out something very effective. And there, the corporate played a major role in bringing all the stakeholders together. Same is the case for the startup ecosystem. When we say, I would say largely, I would put it in two buckets. One, Dr. Anita Gupta ma'am just mentioned about, how do you get the CSR funds to the incubation program. The other being, how do you get access through different corporate innovation programs, which the corporate can actively work on and throw out problems to the startups. And startups can actually be there, the R&D, the distant R&D centers, and there should be definite corporate CIPs, I would say, corporate innovation programs, which will give 2 points. One is mentoring access to startups in those specific sectors, and also probably access to do their pilots and give them that opportunity. Yeah, that's it from mine. Yeah.
I think before I conclude, I just have a small observation that I have seen that currently the second generation or the third generation entrepreneurs are able to meet up some of these requirements of startups. So while there is always an expectation and aspiration that we see from the large corporations, we should also try and see where some of the small and mid-sized companies can also offer some opportunities for the startups. Also, the role of multilateral agencies like GIZ is something very crucial, because I've seen GIZ doing a fantastic job of getting industry, academia, and also the corporate on the such kind of platforms. We also typically try and see whether these best practices and the lessons can be documented, so that that can be certainly helpful for the policy improvements. I think this has been a very good and interactive session. So I would request, I think, Charvi or Shiva, to take it further from here. Thank you very much to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would also like to compliment GIZ. They are really helping, for example, Punjab in taking our Mission Innovate Punjab forward. They're helping us map the entire startup innovation ecosystem, synergize it immensely. And just one point, Parveen, I wanted to say, you said about the small industries, second, third generation entrepreneurs. We have one of the industrial, it's called SISU in short, I'm forgetting the full name. So the president of this industrial association came to meet and he said, ये हमारे बच्चों को आप ये थोड़ा take them towards technology, ये पुरानी हट्टी की कदर करने लग जाएंगे. They'll also start going to the traditional enterprises that we have.
Yeah, it is a journey, I think, with all the stakeholders. So that would be interesting. Over to Shiva or Charvi, whomsoever is coordinating further.
I think Mr. Bala or Suresh can take over for giving the key recommendations and the key points.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Suresh.
Yes. Sorry, there is some internet problem in between. So thank you, Praveen, for bringing in a wonderful session. And we thought of having Mr. Praveen as an outsider for the panel to moderate the panel, because Bala and I are like an insider. We are there on both the sides. We know what is happening in the government side with DST as well as in BIRAC. So especially we requested the GIZ to have an external person to bring in as a moderator, so that we have more views on that. And thank you, Praveen, and thank you, panelists, Dr. Jitendra Arora, Sijo Varghese, right, and our team members, Dr. Anita Gupta and Dr. Manish Divan, for accepting our invitation and sharing your time and thoughts with us. And post-COVID, I think more on distributor network, more on expanding our activities with the limited budget becomes the theme. And I think the state governments, which are in the verge of starting their planning their activities and starting their initiatives, can build in these thoughts at the early stage. And we look forward to further comments and further feedback from all the policymakers who have been part of this panel. GIZ and ISBA will come out with a report on these sessions and on the policies. And as a panelist, we'll be circulating to you. We'll get your comments, and then we'll be submitting to the respective agencies whomsoever we are going to submit this report. With these few words, I thank all the panelists right from morning to the last panel who have been accepting our invitation and sharing their thoughts with us. Thank you. And Charvi, over to you for your final comments.
Thank you, Suresh. You've already thanked everybody. I was about to thank everybody too. So the main reason that we organized this policy dialogue was to capture the innovative best practices by the incubators and capture such practices that have the potential of scaling up across the state and even nationally. And the second reason we organized this policy dialogue was to bring the incubators and the government on the same platform where they can share their expectations with each other. And I think we have been able to achieve both our objectives successfully through this discussion. And like Sureshji mentioned, ISBA and GIZ will now prepare a report based on the best practices we've identified and the recommendations, and we'll share it with all with the relevant ministries and departments in the central and the state government. I especially want to thank Mr. Parlewal, Dr. Kaur, Dr. Anita, Mr. Manish and Sijo for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us today. I also want to thank all the dignitaries and participants for sharing their valuable experiences and the moderators for moderating the session so well. I'm grateful to our event partners, MSME DI, Department of Science and Technology, BIRAC, NSTEBD, Punjab State Council for Science and Technology, and Maharashtra Innovation Society for all their support. I'll also thank ISBA, our implementing partner, for all the hard work that they've put in organizing this policy dialogue. And in the end, I will thank my team in GIZ, especially Shankar and Gaurav, for all the support in organizing this policy dialogue. Thank you. Thanks once again for joining us.
Thank you all. Thank you.